Chapter 1035. Little Nine's sudden appearance was completely out of the Heavenly Demon Supremacy's expectation. The Heavenly Demon Supremacy did not see Little Nine's appearance clearly, but he could feel Little Nine's aura and snorted coldly. "Humph, a mere demonic beast, I thought you had some trump cards. This Emperor will first kill this demonic beast of yours, then kill you." The Heavenly Demon Supremacy did not intend to retract his power and attacked Little Nine directly. A mere demonic beast? Chu Fengmian sneered when he heard the Heavenly Demon Supremacy's words. "Fine, I will let you have a taste of the power of an Xiantian Divine Beast." Even a young Xiantian Divine Beast was still an Xiantian Divine Beast. Nine. Little Nine's eyes were filled with anger when he heard the word demonic beast. To him, calling him a demonic beast was a blasphemy against his dignity as an Xiantian Divine Beast. Swoosh! Suddenly, Little Nine's body accelerated. It was so fast that Chu Fengmian could not see it clearly. Little Nine's body collided with the Heavenly Demon Supremacy's palm. Boom! There was a deafening sound and Chu Fengmian was forced to retreat. The Heavenly Demon Supremacy's palm was torn apart by the collision of their powers. In the next step, Little Nine's body slammed into the Heavenly Demon Supremacy's chest. Boom! The billowing demonic intent was completely shattered. The Heavenly Demon Supremacy's body fell from the sky and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Puff! It was not ordinary blood, but the essence blood of the Heavenly Demon Supremacy. It represented the source of his power. A quasi-emperor was forced to spit out essence blood when he fought against Little Nine's power. Little Nine was not afraid of anyone. Even a quasi-emperor could not match up to him in terms of power. What kind of demonic beast is this? After being sent flying, the Sky Demon Supremacy's mind went blank. He was a quasi-emperor. Even with his full power as a quasi-emperor, he was still sent flying. Especially when he collided with Little Nine. When he felt Little Nine's power for the first time, the Heavenly Demon Supremacy felt that his body was about to be crushed. He even felt death approaching. If this power hadn't only appeared for a split second, the Celestial Demon Supremacy might have perished on the spot. What? Han Yueli and Luo Shu were stunned when they saw Heavenly Demon Sovereign being sent flying. They hadn't known about Little Nine's existence. Originally, when they saw Chu Fengmian being stared at by the Heavenly Demon Supremacy, the two of them felt that something was amiss. However, they did not expect such a turn of events. However, the two of them quickly reacted. Now that the Celestial Demon Sovereign had been sent flying and was heavily injured, this was the best opportunity. Without any hesitation, the two of them attacked the Heavenly Demon Supremacy with their spiritual energy and their swords. The target of these attacks was the Celestial Demon Supremacy's chest. Heavenly Devil High Lord's chest had been smashed by Little Nine, which was now Heavenly Devil High Lord's greatest weakness. Just now, Chu Fengmian was thinking about how to use Little Nine to injure the Celestial Demon Supremacy. Little Nine's strength could only be used once. The second time it was used, it would be much weaker. The Celestial Demon Supremacy actually wanted to attack Chu Fengmian at close range. This was the best opportunity for Chu Fengmian. Of course, he would seize it. Using Little Nine's strength, he would directly injure the Celestial Demon Supremacy. Go back and rest. You've already done very well. Chu Fengmian looked at Little Nine, who was a little shaky. With a thought, he recalled Little Nine back into his body and returned to the Divine Tree to sleep. Little Nine had already done its best. Now, Chu Fengmian could only rely on himself. Chu Fengmian's figure moved and directly chased after the Celestial Demon Supremacy. The Celestial Demon Supremacy, who was in the Quasi-Emperor realm, was originally an invincible figure to Chu Fengmian and the others. If the Celestial Demon Supremacy was not injured, even if Chu Fengmian used all his strength, he would not be able to shake the Celestial Demon Supremacy. However, it was different now. The Heavenly Demon Supremacy was already heavily injured by Little Nine. His chest was his weak point, Of course, Chu Fengmian would not let go of this opportunity to beat a drowning dog. Chu Fengmian followed Hanueli and Luo Shi's attacks and rushed towards the celestial demon supremacy. This time, it was not as simple as just injuring the celestial demon supremacy. He wanted to take drastic measures and directly kill the celestial demon supremacy. Damn it! Damn it! A group of little guys, how dare you injure me? I will kill you all. Today, all of you will die. Heavenly demon true body. Everyone is a demon. The celestial demon supremacy's face was extremely ferocious in the face of all this. A huge demonic intent condensed from his body. The moment the demonic intent condensed, the celestial demon supremacy's body began to change. His body began to expand. Layers of black scales grew continuously from the celestial demon supremacy's body. The injury on the celestial demon supremacy's chest recovered in an instant. His aura also rose several times. Heavenly demon true body. This is the celestial demon supremacy's true body. Chu Fengmian's face changed drastically when he saw the changes in the celestial demon supremacy. The heavenly demon true body was the celestial demon supremacy's final trump card. Under the current situation, the celestial demon supremacy was completely enraged and summoned his true body. This time, the celestial demon supremacy was really angry. For him, dealing with a few little guys was a piece of cake. He did not expect that he would be forced into such a situation. He originally wanted to suppress Chu Fengmian, but he failed one after another. Instead, Chu Fengmian's strength increased and he suddenly broke through. As a quasi-emperor, he was forced into such a situation and had to summon the heavenly demon true body. This was simply an insult to the celestial demon supremacy. It was an insult to a quasi-emperor like him. When the heavenly demon true body was summoned, the strength of the celestial demon supremacy's main body increased by more than 10 times. The sky was filled with demonic intent. If one came into contact with even a little of this demonic intent, it would bring about a calamity. You guys go quickly. I will cover the rear. Chu Fengmian made a prompt decision and said to Luo Shi and Hanueli. The celestial demon supremacy took the initiative to summon the heavenly demon true body. It would take some time for him to turn into a demon. Even if the celestial demon supremacy turned into a true demon, he would not be able to chase after them. I have a way to delay him. You guys go first. Chu Fengmian said hurriedly. Let's go. Chapter 1036. The two of them knew that they were no match for the celestial demon supremacy even if they joined forces. The celestial demon supremacy was different from before after he demonized and condensed the heavenly demon true body. With the power of the heavenly demon true body, even if Chu Fengmian, Hanueli, and Luo Shi joined forces, they would still be no match for the celestial demon supremacy. If they continued to fight, they would only die. It would be easier for Chu Fengmian to escape alone. The celestial demon supremacy is injured. Although he has temporarily suppressed his injury by using the heavenly demon true body, he won't be able to suppress it for long. As long as we escape, he won't continue to chase after us. Chu Fengmian thought. Chu Fengmian could see that the celestial demon supremacy's injuries seemed to have recovered, but he was still far from it. He had used the demonic intent of the 6 demon peaks to temporarily suppress his injury. Once they left the 6 demon peaks, the injury on the celestial demon supremacy's chest would erupt. Therefore, he did not dare to chase after them. As long as they left the 6 demon peaks and escaped into the void, they would be safe. Trying to escape? Don't even think about escaping today. The celestial demon supremacy shouted angrily when he saw Luo Shi and Hanueli turning into rays of light and flying towards the 6 demon peaks. He waved his hand and the demonic intent in the sky turned into chains and chased after Luo Shi and Hanueli. These chains were formed by pure demonic intent. In an instant, they sealed the sky and trapped the 6 demon peaks. Creation. The moment the seal was formed, Chu Fengmian suddenly made his move. The power of creation condensed on the tip of his sword. Suddenly, he slashed out with his sword. The sword that contained the power of creation broke the seal in front of Hanueli and Luo Shi on the spot. This allowed the two of them to rush out of the 6 demon peaks without any obstructions. Damn it! Damn it! The celestial demon supremacy stomped his feet. He had never taken Chu Fengmian's strength seriously. However, the power of creation was enough to break everything. The seal that he had set up was instantly broken by the power of creation. Seeing Han Yueli and Luo Shi rushing out of the 6 demon peaks, the celestial demon supremacy's eyes were filled with remorse. However, he soon looked at Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, didn't you want to be a hero? Then, you shall die first. Apart from Han Yueli and Luo Shi, the person Heavenly Devil Supremacy wanted to kill the most was still Chu Fengmian. The power of creation in Chu Fengmian's body was the reason why he had to kill him. As long as he could kill Chu Fengmian, he could obtain the power of creation and control the creation. Celestial Demon Supremacy, Celestial Demon Supremacy for Supremacies, Supremacies, Celestial Demon Supremacies, Demon Supremacy. The Heavenly Demon Supremacy roared as he gathered his strength to the limit. With a wave of his hand, the demonic will that filled the sky turned into a long purple river that fell towards Chu Fengmian. Groups of demons roared in the purple river, and demonic aura churned. Once one fell into the river, one would be eaten by these demons, and not even a corpse would be left. Even Chu Fengmian's will couldn't help but be moved when he heard the howls of the devils. So much for the devils to descend to this world. Run! This old man is already consuming his essence blood to fight with you. His injuries are very serious now. Every second of the battle is consuming his essence blood. He is determined to kill you at all costs. Xing Xian hurriedly shouted in his mind. He could see Chu Fengmian even more clearly. The celestial demon supremacy was consuming his lifespan with every move he made. He was willing to pay any price to kill Chu Fengmian. He wouldn't give Chu Fengmian any chance to escape. The moment the purple river fell, Heavenly Demon Supremacy's main body also made a move. He condensed his spiritual power and grabbed at Chu Fengmian. The demonic will around Chu Fengmian solidified and turned into a cage, completely sealing Chu Fengmian within, leaving him with no way to escape. You're making me consume my essence blood. You deserve to die. Heavenly Demon Supremacy looked at Chu Fengmian with extreme anger. He was also an antique that had lived for thousands of years. Heavenly Demon Supremacy was now seriously injured. Every move he made was consuming his essence blood. Even though he was a quasi-emperor, he might not be able to recover even after thousands of years. Thousands of years of hard work had been destroyed in an instant. He had already paid such a great price to kill Chu Fengmian. Heavenly Demon Supremacy had to get back his 1,000 years of hard work from Chu Fengmian. Old man, you're about to die. How dare you be so arrogant? Ancient Human Emperor, enlighten all living beings. Chu Fengmian also displayed his final trump card, the Human Emperor Jar, when the purple river came crashing down. Chu Fengmian dared to face Heavenly Demon Supremacy alone because he also had his own trump card, the Human Emperor Jar. Although the Emperor's Jar was incomplete, it was still an extreme-grade celestial weapon. No other spiritual weapon could compare to it. If Heavenly Demon Supremacy was at his full strength, the Human Emperor Jar might not be able to hurt him. However, the Heavenly Demon Supremacy was already exhausted and severely injured. At this moment, the Human Emperor Jar's power could be fully displayed. At such a close distance, Heavenly Demon Supremacy had no chance of escaping even if he wanted to. Break! The Human Emperor Jar injected all the energy in Chu Fengmian's body, causing him to faint for a moment. However, at this moment, he still forced himself to endure. This was a battle to the death. Whether he lived or died, it all depended on this one move. What's that? What spiritual weapon is that? This energy. Is it an extreme immortal weapon? How could an extreme immortal weapon be in your hands? Heavenly Demon Supremacy's face changed drastically when he saw the Human Emperor Jar and sensed the spiritual energy. His figure rapidly retreated, his face full of horror. He had never imagined that Chu Fengmian would possess an extreme Dao immortal weapon. Although Chu Fengmian had used the Human Emperor Jar in the ancient gladiator arena, there were no disciples of the 6 demon sects present at that time. Therefore, heavenly demon supremacy had no idea that Chu Fengmian had an extreme immortal weapon like the human Emperor Jar. In a panic, heavenly demon supremacy retreated hastily. It's too late. Die. Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a sinister smile. He had been waiting for this opportunity. The human Emperor Jar in Chu Fengmian's hands suddenly trembled violently. Then, a thunderous roar resounded throughout the 6 demon peaks. Boom! Chapter 1037. Chu Fengmian had already stepped into the 7th step of the life and death steps, the heavenly mandate realm. His spiritual energy was 10 times stronger than when he was in the heart-refining realm. However, Chu Fengmian's energy was still completely depleted when he activated the Emperor Jar with all his strength. Although the Emperor Jar was broken, it was still an ultimate immortal weapon. Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy was not enough to activate the true power of the Emperor Jar. He could only barely activate the Emperor Jar. Now that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the heavenly mandate realm, it was the first time he could activate the full power of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy had been drained by the Emperor Jar. Now that his spiritual energy had burst out at the same time, the resulting spiritual energy was enough to sweep everything away. Countless disciples in the 6 demon peaks were affected by the power and died on the spot. Even the entire 6 demon peaks began to tremble under the power and cracks began to appear on its surface. The 6 demon peaks was a mountain that had existed during the era of the 6 demon sects. It had experienced the glory of the 6 demon sects and was extremely sturdy. But now, under the power of the Emperor Jar, cracks began to appear on it. Let's go! Phantom Shadow Movement Technique, Traceless. The moment the power of the Emperor Jar erupted, Chu Fengmian managed to recover some spiritual energy. He hurriedly activated the Phantom Body Technique and flew out of the 6 demon peaks. Now that he had rescued Luo Shi, Chu Fengmian was thinking about returning safely. It was almost impossible for a martial artist of Chu Fengmian's realm to kill a quasi-emperor. Being able to seriously injure the heavenly demon supremacy was already the limit of what Chu Fengmian could do. Even with the power of the Emperor Jar, it was still not difficult to kill the heavenly demon supremacy. In this battle, Chu Fengmian had comprehended how to fight against the quasi-emperor. As long as he could escape, his strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. The next time he encountered the heavenly demon supremacy, it was not certain who would survive. Chu Fengmian's Phantom Body Technique brought his body out of the 6 demon peaks. Outside the 6 demon peaks, 2 graceful figures were anxiously watching the spiritual energy erupting from the 6 demon peaks. The moment they saw Chu Fengmian rushing out, a smile finally appeared on their faces. Let's go! Chu Fengmian grabbed Hanueli and Luo Shi and condensed his spiritual energy. In an instant, he broke the space in front of him into a void and stepped into the void. In the void, it was possible to travel thousands of miles at any given moment. Let's return to Cloud Feather Palace first. After rushing out of the 6 Paths Demonic Gates territory, Chu Fengmian communicated with the Cloud Feather Heavenly Palace. He wanted to use the power of the Cloud Feather Heavenly Palace to bring him back. However, at the same time, boundless demonic will chased after Chu Fengmian like a tide. In this demonic will tide, one could clearly see a figure. Heavenly Demon Supreme Lord. Under the power of the human Emperor Jar, the Celestial Devil Master could not stop the Celestial Devil Master. He followed Chu Fengmian into the void and chased after Chu Fengmian. Originally, Chu Fengmian thought that with the power of the human Emperor Jar, even if it couldn't kill the heavenly demon supremacy, it would be enough to seriously injure him. However, he did not expect the power of a quasi-emperor to be so terrifying. The quasi-emperor actually resisted the bombardment of the human Emperor Jar. He even activated his spiritual power and chased after Chu Fengmian. The speed of the demonic will tide was much faster than Chu Fengmian and the other two. In almost an instant, the demonic will tide caught up with Chu Fengmian and the other two. Trying to escape? No one can escape from this emperor's hands. I'll devour all of you. Overflowing demonic will. The heavenly demon Supreme Lord chased after Chu Fengmian, and the demonic will tide that filled the sky rushed toward Chu Fengmian and the other two. When Han Yueli saw the demonic will tide rushing toward him, he suddenly drew his sword. Blue sword light flashed and the sword tip turned into a glacier that blocked the demonic will tide. However, the glacier was completely devoured by the demonic will tide in an instant. It was as if no power could stop the demonic will tide. Damn it, this old man is really crazy. He won't stop until he dies. Chu Fengmian looked at the heavenly demon Supreme Lord and used his fastest escape light. However, the demonic will tide was still closing in on them. If this continued, they would be devoured by the demonic will tide sooner or later. Only death awaits us if we continue to escape. The heavenly demon Supreme Lord roared ferociously. He was already fighting with his life on the line. He would rather die than stop until he killed Chu Fengmian and the other two. The demonic will tide chased after Chu Fengmian and the other two. Then, it condensed into an ancient blade and slashed toward Chu Fengmian and the other two. The moment the blade condensed, the void trembled. It was a supreme killing move that the heavenly demon Supreme Lord cast with his full strength. When Chu Fengmian and the other two saw the blade, they couldn't help but tremble. They could feel the horror of the blade. Kanglin Immortal Armor. When the blade approached, Luoshi suddenly flew out and faced the blade head-on. The Kanglin Immortal Armor materialized from her body and turned into a barrier, forcibly blocking the three of them. You still dare to resist? Today, I'll kill you first. The heavenly demon Supreme Lord looked at Luoshi and sneered. His blade slashed toward the Kanglin Immortal Armor. Boom! The moment the blade collided with the Kanglin Immortal Armor, it exploded with an unparalleled force. The spiritual energy around the Kanglin Immortal Armor was completely shattered. The blade and the Kanglin Immortal Armor clashed in the air. In the next moment, the Kanglin Immortal Armor was broken and Luoshi's body was heavily bombarded. Puff! Luoshi spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face turned pale and she was sent flying. Luoshi's clothes were dyed red by the blood all over her body. Luoshi! Chu Fengmian roared. His body flashed and he hurriedly caught Luoshi's body and held her in his arms. Luoshi had already lost 99% of her life force. She had almost died on the spot. Although the Kanglin Immortal Armor had resisted 99% of the heavenly demon Supreme Lord's attack, it was still fatal. Old bastard, I want you dead. Chu Fengmian roared heartbreakingly. His eyes were blood red and his killing intent exploded. Bloodslayer Demon Sword, unsheath. Boom! From Chu Fengmian's body, it was as if all the killing intent since ancient times had condensed in his body. Chapter 1038. You want me to die? Kid, you're still talking big when you're about to die. The celestial demon supremacy didn't care about Chu Fengmian's words at first. Chu Fengmian had even taken out the human emperor's jar, yet he was still no match for him. He wasn't afraid that Chu Fengmian still had other trump cards up his sleeve. However, the moment he saw the purple longsword in Feng Mian's hand, his pupils shrank. There was no longer any fear in his eyes. Instead, there was a deep sense of fear in the depths of his pupils. This is the Bloodslayer Demon Sword? The Bloodslayer Demon Sword? The purple sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was filled with killing intent. It reeked of blood and reeked of blood. The celestial demon supremacy suddenly thought of something that terrified him. As a disciple of the demon sect, everyone was afraid of something. In fact, everyone in the 9 domains was afraid of something. The Bloodslayer Demon Sword. It was the most terrifying spiritual weapon in the 9 domains. 10,000 years ago, half of the martialists in the 9 domains had died because of this sword. There were billions of martialists in the 9 domains. The blood of half of these martialists was enough to turn into an ocean. The oceans of the 9 domains had turned blood red. It had taken thousands of years for them to return to their original state. Although the Bloodslayer Demon Sword had disappeared for 10,000 years, its fear was still imprinted in everyone's hearts. Even Han Yueli fell into a daze when he saw Chu Fengmian's transformation. It was as if he had seen a stranger. "Help me take care of her." Chu Fengmian handed Luo Shi over to Hanueli. When Luo Shi was handed over to Hanueli, the last trace of light in Chu Fengmian's eyes turned blood red. "Old bastard, I want you dead." He repeated the exact same words. If the celestial demon supremacy hadn't thought much of Luo Yunyang before, then this time, there was deep fear in his eyes. There was a legend about the terror of the Bloodslayer demon sword. Whoever possessed the Bloodslayer demon sword would be able to inherit its power. Even a weak ordinary person would become a terrifying existence in the 9 domains. "No, you haven't mastered the power of the Bloodslayer demon sword. I still have a chance to kill you. Once I kill you, even the Bloodslayer demon sword will be mine." The celestial demon supremacy looked at Chu Fengmian with a hint of madness in his eyes. He was the first to make a move. He suddenly condensed the surrounding demonic wool and turned it into a blade, slashing directly at Chu Fengmian. This blade was several times more terrifying than the one that had just broken the Kanglan immortal armor. "Chu Fengmian, be careful," Hanueli reminded loudly. She saw that Chu Fengmian didn't move at all when facing the blade. Chu Fengmian waited until the blade was about to reach him before he slowly raised his sword. Boom! It was an ordinary sword strike, without any moves. Even the sword intent was not activated. However, it was this sword that completely shattered the celestial demon supremacy's saber in midair. In the next moment, the sword that was stained with an unknown amount of blood arrived in front of the celestial demon High Lord. The moment he smelled the blood, the celestial demon sovereign's face turned deathly pale. "Let me go! Let me go! As long as you let me go, the 6 Paths Demon Gate is willing to serve you. We will let you become the Demon Emperor." At this moment, the celestial demon supremacy's heart finally collapsed. There was only fear left in his heart. He didn't want to die. As a boundary emperor, he didn't want to die. He had painstakingly stepped into the Emperor realm. Hearing the celestial demon supremacy's words, Chu Fengmian only responded with eyes full of killing intent. Since the moment the celestial demon supremacy injured Luo Shi, he was a dead man. A dead man. Chu Fengmian didn't say anything. Instead, he spoke with his actions. He raised his sword high and slashed at the celestial demon supremacy's body. The blood-slaughtering demon sword pierced through the celestial demon supremacy's body, crushing his 5 viscera and 6 organs at the same time. His entire body began to explode. "Damn it! Damn it! You still won't let me go. I'm going to fight to the death with all of you. Let's all die together." The moment his body was crushed, the celestial demon supremacy's face was hideous and his eyes were cruel. His body suddenly swelled up. Every strand of spirit energy in his body began to expand and explode. "Run! He's going to self-destruct." Hanueli's eyes were filled with fear. His body was trembling. Self-destruction. The self-destruction of a boundary emperor was enough to destroy everything. No one could withstand it. "You still want to run? All of you will die with me today." The celestial demon supremacy roared loudly. He had already given up on living. He would rather die than die. Under the celestial demon supremacy's power, the surrounding demon intent began to gather and seal the surrounding space. They couldn't even activate Cloud Feather Heavenly Palace to receive him. The moment the seal was completed, the celestial demon supremacy finally made up his mind. His entire body exploded in the air. The surging spirit energy explosion destroyed everything in the void. "Break the void! Break the void with your sword!" Xing Xian hurriedly shouted. In this dangerous explosion, Chu Fengmian's mind suddenly woke up. Xing Xian's voice rang out. He held the blood-slaughtering demon sword and poured all his strength into the sword. Blood-slaughtering heaven and earth. This sword slashed out towards the void in front of him. Crack! Under this sword, cracks began to appear in the void in front of him. Void cracks. He was trying to force his way out of the rift. "Yueli, go quickly." The moment the crack opened, Chu Fengmian grabbed Hanueli and dragged her into the void cracks. "Protect yourself. I will definitely find you," Chu Fengmian said. Without waiting for Hanueli's reply, he dragged her into the void cracks. At this moment, Chu Fengmian saw the unconscious Luo Shi in Hanueli's arms. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. Little Nine suddenly appeared in his arms. "Little Nine, help me take care of Luo Shi. Protect her," Chu Fengmian hurriedly said to Little Nine. Little Nine also understood Chu Fengmian's words. He nodded at Chu Fengmian and then went into Luo Shi's body. After doing all this, Chu Fengmian let go of Hanueli and Luo Shi and threw them into the void cracks. At the same time, the power of the explosion also bombarded Chu Fengmian's body. The power of the explosion tore Chu Fengmian's body apart time and time again. Chu Fengmian used his strength to regenerate his body. His body slowly approached the crack in the void. Chapter 1039. It was a long time after the explosion of the void land ended that several figures rushed over. Their leader was the Demon Emperor, and several ancestors of the Six Paths demonic sects were with him. Did the heavenly demon self-destruct? Looking at the chaotic void, some of the old ancestors from the Six Paths demon sects looked around and observed the surroundings. The chaos in the void was enough to prove how tragic the battle had been. The heavenly demon and that brat's aura have disappeared. It seems that they have fallen. What a pity. That brat had an extreme immortal weapon, but it's all gone now. The ancestors of the Six Paths demonic sects couldn't help but sigh at the thought of Chu Fengmian's Emperor Jar. An extreme immortal weapon hadn't appeared in the 9 domains for a long time. This time, it had disappeared with Chu Fengmian. Even the Demon Emperor couldn't help but sigh. Forget it. Now that Chu Fengmian is dead, no one in the 9 domains can stop me. Chu Fengmian must have obtained the inheritance of Cloud Feather Palace. Now that he's dead, Cloud Feather Palace will belong to me. When the time comes, all the treasures in the returning ruins heaven will belong to me. The Demon Emperor muttered to himself as he looked around. Seeing that there were no traces left behind, he slowly left the area. The ancestors of the Six Paths demonic sects behind him also left together. On the other side, Chu Fengmian's body was floating in the void turbulence, drifting with the flow. Chu Fengmian's spiritual power had been completely exhausted. His eyes were tightly shut, and he had fallen into a state of unconsciousness. Fortunately, his body was strong enough to not be destroyed in the void turbulence. Instead, he was carried away by the void turbulence. Crack! The turbulence in the void suddenly stopped. A huge vortex suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fengmian and took his body out of the void. Rumble! Chu Fengmian's body suddenly fell from the sky and crashed into the ground 1,000 meters away. Senior Sister Sun, is there really a treasure of heaven and earth nearby? Not far away, in a forest, there were 2 figures. They were 2 young girls. They were walking through the forest, looking around as if they were looking for something. It shouldn't be wrong. The strange phenomenon just now came from somewhere nearby. Even if it's not the birth of a precious treasure, it could be the shattering of the void. It's possible that some ancient caves have been brought to our desolate domain. This is a great opportunity. The woman who was addressed as Senior Sun glanced at the other girl beside her with an impatient look in her eyes. Louis, even if we encounter a heavenly treasure this time, you won't get a share, do you understand? At most, I'll give you some rewards later. Yes, Senior Martial Sister Sun. I'm already very grateful that you brought me out to broaden my horizons. Louis hurriedly said. Humph, it's good that you know what's good for you. Senior Sister Sun sneered and continued to walk forward. Gradually, she walked out of the forest. What's going on? I don't feel any special spiritual energy. Did I go in the wrong direction? Senior Martial Sister Sun glanced around and said with a flicker in her eyes. Let's go somewhere else. Wait, Senior Martial Sister Sun. There seems to be someone lying in front of us. Louis suddenly saw a figure lying in the grass in front of them and hurriedly walked over. With a glance, she saw that Chu Fengmian's clothes were tattered. However, there were no wounds under the tattered clothes. Senior Marshal Sister Sun, this person seems to be injured and has fainted. A cultivator? There doesn't seem to be anyone dressed like this in our desolate domain. Senior Marshal Sister Sun glanced at Chu Fengmian and suddenly saw the empty ring on his hand. Greed appeared in her eyes. Go, cut off his finger and take away his empty ring. What? Senior Marshal Sister Sun, this person is in trouble. It's not good for us to take advantage of him. Louis said unwillingly when she heard Senior Marshal Sister Sun's words. Although our Radiant Heaven sect isn't a great sect, we're still considered righteous. We shouldn't take advantage of him. Trash. If you don't do it, then I'll do it. This person's origin is unknown. It's very likely that he's a wanted criminal who hid in our desolate domain. What's wrong with taking his empty ring? Senior Marshal Sister Sun's eyes flickered as she spoke with a ruthless expression. Get lost. She forced Louis back with a palm strike. Then, she condensed a short dagger in her palm and slashed it at Chu Fengmian's finger. Bang! When the short dagger came into contact with Chu Fengmian's finger, Senior Marshal Sister Sun's body was sent flying. However, there wasn't a single wound on Chu Fengmian's finger. What a tough body. This person must have a great origin. Senior Marshal Sister Sun, I think we should bring this person back to the sect and wait for him to wake up. Louis hurriedly supported Senior Marshal Sister Sun as she looked at Chu Fengmian and spoke. If you want to take him, then take him. I still have to look for other treasures. Senior Marshal Sister Sun unwillingly glanced at Chu Fengmian. Then, she moved and flew in another direction. Louis glanced at Chu Fengmian and hesitated for a moment. Then, she supported Chu Fengmian and slowly brought him away. Chu Fengmian had seen everything that had happened clearly. However, the consumption of spiritual power in his body was too severe. It was too early for Chu Fengmian to use the bloodlust demon sword. In just an instant, Chu Fengmian felt that more than half of his spiritual energy and vitality had been drained. Forget it. There shouldn't be any danger for the time being. I should recover a part of my strength first. Otherwise, I'll only be at the mercy of others. Chu Fengmian slowly closed his eyes and began to recover his body. His divine vein had been forcefully shattered in the battle with the heavenly demon sovereign lord. As a result, Chu Fengmian's recovery of spiritual energy was tens of thousands of times slower than before. His first step was to restore his divine vein. Where is this place? The spiritual energy here is extremely dense. However, it's just right for me to recover faster. Chu Fengmian closed his eyes and slowly restored his divine vein. He was slowly recovering his strength. Louis didn't know any of this. She could only see that Chu Fengmian had fainted, but she couldn't tell how much damage he had sustained. She only brought Chu Fengmian back to the Radiant Sky Sect. She brought Chu Fengmian to her cave residence in the Radiant Sky Sect and helped Chu Fengmian onto a stone bed. I wonder where the senior came from. I originally thought that some treasure had appeared. What a pity. Chapter 1040. A day and a night passed. Chu Fengmian lay on the stone bed, slowly recovering his divine veins. A small part of his shattered divine veins had been repaired by Chu Fengmian's power. Finally, Chu Fengmian had enough spiritual energy to activate the Battle Dragon bloodline to gradually heal his injuries. It's too much for me to fight against the Quasi-Emperor with my current strength. I didn't expect that I could only defeat him after using the Bloodlust Demon Sword. Chu Fengmian looked at his injuries and couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was the first time Chu Fengmian had suffered such serious injuries. Even with the Divine Tree, Battle Dragon skill, and Divine Veins, he almost couldn't recover. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian hadn't encountered any danger in this unfamiliar place. The senior sister Sun he met before was only in the wind-controlling realm. Even with her full strength, she couldn't break Chu Fengmian's body. Xing Xian, where's this place? Chu Fengmian called out to Xing Xian in his mind. He had used his spiritual sense to scan his surroundings, only to find that he was in a completely unfamiliar place. It didn't seem to belong to any place in the 9 domains. Chu Fengmian was eager to know where he was. Xing Xian? Chu Fengmian couldn't help but feel nervous when Xing Xian didn't respond. Chu Fengmian had used the Bloodlust Demon Sword during the battle with the Heavenly Demon Supremacy. Could it be that Xing Xian was in trouble? Just as Chu Fengmian was feeling nervous, an impatient voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Why are you so noisy? Boy, you still know to ask me? Why didn't you ask me when you used the demon sword? Xing Xian's voice sounded a little angry. Do you know? If it weren't for the protection of the divine tree and the divine veins, you would have died 10,000 times. I told you not to use the demon sword. If you want to die, don't harm me. Wait until I find a new master. You can die if you want. Xing Xian said angrily. He finally found a new master, Chu Fengmian, and saw a glimmer of hope. However, he didn't expect that Chu Fengmian would still fall into such a dangerous situation. Facing the heavenly demon supremacy, Chu Fengmian was even risking his life. Chu Fengmian could only be considered to be lucky to be able to survive. We have no choice but to do so. Hearing Xing Xian's words, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but sigh. After seeing that Luo Shi was seriously injured, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but use the Bloodlust Demon Sword. At that time, he didn't care about the consequences. All he wanted was to kill the celestial demon supremacy. If I ran away without a fight, perhaps you wouldn't recognize me as your master. Chu Fengmian said with a smile. Indeed, the Bloodlust Demon Sword could not escape. All of the previous owners of the Bloodlust Demon Sword had died in a bloody battle. None of them had fled. AI. Xing Xian sighed helplessly. At that time, Chu Fengmian wanted to fight a bloody battle. He had no way to stop Chu Fengmian. Forget it. Don't do such dangerous things in the future. By the way, that little girl mentioned that this place is called the Radiant Heaven Sect? Xing Xian suddenly changed the topic and asked Chu Fengmian. That shouldn't be the case. How did the Radiant Heaven Sect become like this? Radiant Heaven Sect? What sect is that? Chu Fengmian thought for a while after hearing Xing Xian's words, but he couldn't remember anything about the Radiant Heaven Sect. It seemed to be a sect that had never appeared in the 9 regions. Wasn't the cultivation technique you cultivated before the Radiant Heaven Sect's entry technique? The Broken Bone Rebirth technique? Xing Xian looked around and explained. The Radiant Heaven Sect used to be an invincible sect. How did it end up like this? I don't know what happened. However, this place should be outside the 9 regions. The spiritual energy around here doesn't belong to the 9 regions. Outside the 9 regions. Although Chu Fengmian had already guessed it, he couldn't help but be shocked when he heard those words. You're saying that this is the extraterritorial starry sky? The extraterritorial starry sky had always been a legend in the 9 regions. It was actually outside the 9 regions. There was an even vaster world outside the 9 regions. However, this rumor had never been proven. Chu Fengmian had actually come to the extraterritorial starry sky. In the words of the 9 regions, this is indeed the extraterritorial starry sky. However, the so-called extraterritorial starry sky is also a vast and boundless world. In fact, the 9 regions are only a small part of it. There are thousands of 9 regions in the 9 regions, Xing Xian slowly explained as he looked at Chu Fengmian. It seems that you were directly brought to this place by the spatial turbulence after breaking through the void. You actually didn't die after crossing the starry sky. You're quite lucky. This is outside the 9 regions. What about Yueli? What about Luo Shi? Where are they? Chu Fengmian suddenly thought of Han Yueli and Luo Shi. The two of them should have been swept into the spatial turbulence like Chu Fengmian. However, Chu Fengmian couldn't find any trace of the two of them. In particular, he heard Xing Xian say that the world was so vast that there were thousands of worlds like the 9 regions. If they were brought to other places, wouldn't they be in danger? Don't worry too much. The two girls should have also been brought to this continent by the spatial turbulence. However, we don't know what continent this is. It won't be difficult to find them after you've recovered from your injuries. Xing Xian said calmly. Hearing this, Chu Fengmian gradually calmed down. The spatial turbulence followed this continent. Hanueli and Luo Shi should also be on this continent. Although Chu Fengmian didn't know where the two of them were, he vaguely sensed that they weren't in any danger. Hanueli hadn't been seriously injured in the previous battle. Given her Neverwither realm, she should have enough power to protect herself. Although Luo Shi was injured, she had little Nine's protection. Even a quasi-emperor wouldn't be able to harm her. Thinking of this, Chu Fengmian heaved a sigh of relief. Now, it seemed that Chu Fengmian was in the most danger. My injuries have recovered a little. It's not like I don't have any power to protect myself. However, if I want to recover, I can't rely on pure spiritual power. I have to find some spiritual medicine. Chu Fengmian felt that his body had recovered less than 1/10 of its strength. However, he was probably not inferior to an ordinary emperor. Chapter 1041. After a day of rest, Chu Fengmian had recovered less than 1/10 of his strength. However, this was already his limit. Relying on the power of the divine vein, he could only recover this much at most. If Chu Fengmian wanted to recover his strength further, he would need to borrow some external force. The best way was to use medicinal pills. Originally, with Chu Fengmian's strength, ordinary elixirs were meaningless to Chu Fengmian. But now that Chu Fengmian was seriously injured, his body was no different from an ordinary warrior's. Some elixirs were enough to heal Chu Fengmian's injuries. Since there's a sect here, it's not too desolate. I can look for opportunities to buy some spiritual pills to heal my injuries. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. There was still a lot of wealth stored in his empty ring. It was enough for him to buy spiritual pills. Thinking of this, Chu Fengmian withdrew his spiritual sense. Chu Fengmian slowly opened his eyes and scanned the room. It looked like an extremely simple stone room. The spiritual energy was also extremely thin. As a cave residence, it could only be considered as the lowest grade. As for the entire Brilliant Heaven sect, Chu Fengmian could vaguely sense that the sect he was currently in, the Radiant Heaven sect, was only a third-rate sect. It was similar to the Gu clan in the ancient city of Ning province. They only had one patriarch in the heart-refining realm. In addition, there were a few old ancestors in the life-shattering realm and immortality realm. They posed no threat to Chu Fengmian. Huff! Chu Fengmian suppressed his injuries and slowly opened his eyes. He sat up from the stone bed and stretched his body. Not far from him was the woman who brought Chu Fengmian back to the Brilliant Heaven sect, Lui. Chu Fengmian saw that she was cultivating very hard. However, her strength was not high. She was only in the Divine Sea realm. You only have one spiritual vein. Chu Fengmian glanced at Lui. He could see that her strength was so low because she only had one spiritual vein. In the world of cultivators, this represented the lowest aptitude. It was already her perseverance to be able to cultivate to the Divine Sea realm. It was almost impossible for her to advance any further. Senior, you're awake. At that moment, Lui finished her cultivation and opened her eyes. She saw that Chu Fengmian had woken up, so she asked, "What are you doing?" Seeing that Chu Fengmian's complexion had improved a lot, Luisin exclaimed in surprise. Previously, Chu Fengmian had already fallen into a coma and was seriously injured. Who would have thought that Chu Fengmian would be able to recover in a short day? This person must be an extremely powerful martial artist. He might even be a saint or an ancestor. That's why he could recover from his injuries in a day. Luisin thought to herself. Your name is Louis. You saved me? Chu Fengmian looked at Louis and nodded. Although Louis's strength was lacking, she was kind-hearted and brought Chu Fengmian back. Chu Fengmian had always been clear about gratitude and grudges. Since Louis had saved him, Chu Fengmian would not treat her unfairly. My name is Louis. Senior, how did you know my name? Louis froze for a moment before speaking in surprise. Chu Fengmian had just woken up, yet he knew her name? I know what happened before. Since you saved me, I naturally won't treat you unfairly. Tell me, what benefits do you want? Chu Fengmian looked at Louis and slowly spoke. As long as Louis didn't ask for too much, Chu Fengmian would naturally agree. It could be considered as repaying her kindness. Benefits. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Louis froze. While she was hesitating, a wave of spiritual energy suddenly came from outside. Chu Fengmian scanned with his spiritual sense and saw a dozen martial artists approaching. Most of these martial artists were in the wind-controlling realm. Only the leader's strength had reached the 7th level of the divine power realm. Their auras were similar to Louis's. They seemed to be disciples of the Radiant Heaven sect. Louis, come out. Among the crowd, one of them was Senior Martial Sister Sun, who wanted to cut off Chu Fengmian's finger and seize his spatial ring. Now that she had arrived in front of the cave, she spoke bluntly. Senior Martial Brother Tianjin has something to tell you. Come out quickly. Senior Martial Brother Tianjin? Hearing this name, Louis froze. Her face couldn't help but reveal some nervousness. Don't worry, they're here for me. Chu Fengmian casually spoke. Let's go out. Saying so, Chu Fengmian took the lead and stepped out of the cave. Outside the cave, Senior Martial Brother Tianjin was solemnly questioning Senior Martial Sister Sun. You're saying that Louis brought back an unconscious martial artist from the Barren Mountain? Is that true? Senior Martial Brother Tianjin slowly spoke. His tone was more like an interrogation. Yes, Senior Martial Brother Tianjin. Louis and I met that martial artist at the same time. We originally didn't want to care about him, but Louis stubbornly brought him back to the sect. Senior Martial Sister Sun respectfully replied. I don't think this person is from our desolate region. He was most likely chased and fled here. That's possible. However, let's figure out this person's identity first. The previous spatial fluctuation that we couldn't find the treasure was probably caused by this person. To be able to break through the void, this person's cultivation base is at least a life and death expert. Senior Martial Brother Tianjin coldly spoke. His eyes flickered with a sinister light. However, this person is already heavily injured. We have to interrogate him first. This guy is a wanted criminal of the Empire. If we kill him, it'll be a great merit. Senior Martial Brother Tianjin is right. An ordinary martial artist wouldn't come to our desolate region for no reason. This person was most likely chased here by someone. If we kill him, we can seize his wealth. Another Radiant Sky Sect disciple spoke with an unfriendly gaze. Say no more. He's coming out. Senior Martial Brother Tianjin suddenly spoke. His gaze had already caught sight of Chu Fengmian slowly walking out of the cave. What business do you have with this Chu? Chu Fengmian spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He had heard all the conversations of these people, and his eyes couldn't help but reveal some killing intent. However, this was an unfamiliar place, and Chu Fengmian didn't want to act recklessly. You're the martial artist that Louis brought back? Speak. Who are you? Where are you from? Why did you come to my Radiant Sky Sect's territory? Chapter 1042. Oh? Is this how you treat your guests? Chu Fengmian's face was still kind at first, but after hearing Senior Brother Tianjin's tone, his face turned cold. Even if he was injured, he wasn't someone who could be provoked. Moreover, he could tell with a single glance that this Senior Brother Tianjin and the Radiant Sky Sect's disciples were up to no good. Guest? I don't think so. You've trespassed into the Radiant Sky Sect's territory without permission, so we must investigate you thoroughly. Hurry up and tell us where you came from and who you are, or we'll arrest you and bring you to the government office. Senior Sister Sun said rudely. That's right. Kid, your background is unknown, and you're unwilling to reveal your identity. You're most likely a wanted criminal of the Empire. We'll capture you first and bring you to the supervisor. Senior Tianjin said coldly. His words were laced with a hint of threat. Kid, we know that you're seriously injured. Don't try to resist. You want to take advantage of my precarious situation? Chu Fengmian smiled. He didn't expect that these people would want to take advantage of his precarious situation to deal with him. Even if Chu Fengmian had recovered 1/100th of his strength, it would be easy for him to deal with these people. Chu Fengmian said disdainfully. You bunch of trash want to deal with me? How dare you? Who do you think you are to be so impudent in our Radiant Sky sect? How dare you talk back to senior brother Tianjin? Senior sister Sun shouted angrily. Senior brother Tianjin, this person's background is unknown, and he doesn't dare to reveal his identity. He's most likely a wanted criminal of the Empire. We'll help you capture him and put him in jail. We'll decide what to do. Senior sister Sun, senior brother Tianjin, although our Radiant Sky sect is small, it's still a righteous sect. Have you asked the sect master before doing this? Lu Yi, who was standing at the side, couldn't help but ask. The expressions of the other Radiant Sky sect disciples changed when they heard this. How dare you, Lu Yi? You're a traitor. How dare you meddle in other people's business? Senior sister Sun said angrily. She suddenly reached out and grabbed Lu Yi, wanting to take her away. Her cultivation was one realm higher than Lu Yi's, so Lu Yi was unable to resist at all. You dare to capture someone in front of me? Chu Fengmian coldly shouted, get lost. Chu Fengmian flicked his sleeve and sent out a burst of spiritual energy, shattering senior sister Sun's right hand on the spot. You wanted to cut off my finger and steal my empty ring. Do you think I don't know? Breaking one of your hands is also a lesson for you. Chu Fengmian looked at senior sister Sun and said coldly. An outsider has no right to meddle in the affairs of my Radiant Heaven sect. At this moment, senior brother Skygold, who was standing to the side, suddenly made his move. He gathered his spiritual energy and threw out 3 punches at Chu Fengmian. The 3-fist winds stacked on top of each other, and when the fist struck out, the space around it trembled. Brat, you've already committed a capital offense by injuring a disciple of my Brilliant Heaven sect. Kneel down and await the Brilliant Heaven sect's judgment. Senior brother Skygold glanced at Chu Fengmian and sneered. You're courting death? Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian pointed his finger at the 3-fist winds. With a flick of his finger, the 3-fist winds were all shattered by Chu Fengmian's fingertip. With a single finger, he was able to shatter the 3-fist winds. Furthermore, the power of that finger strike struck that senior brother Tianjin's body and sent him flying. Senior brother Skygold. Seeing that senior brother Skygold was sent flying, the other disciples of the Brilliant Heaven sect all made their moves. They gathered their spiritual energy and formed a formation, trying to suppress Chu Fengmian. Senior, be careful. This is the Brilliant Heaven sect's mountain guarding formation. It's extremely powerful and can't be resisted. Lu Yi hurriedly reminded from the side. Mountain guarding formation? All of you, break! Chu Fengmian coldly snorted in disdain. He clawed at the sky, and a crack appeared on the mountain guarding formation before it suddenly shattered. The other disciples of the Brilliant Heaven sect were sent flying. Each of them vomited blood and fainted. I'll teach you all a lesson first. If you dare to provoke me again, you'll all die. Chu Fengmian turned around and looked at Lu Yi. Come with me. With that, Chu Fengmian grabbed Lu Yi and flew out of the Brilliant Heaven sect. Not long after Chu Fengmian left, a few figures descended from the sky. When they saw the Brilliant Heaven sect's disciples on the ground, they couldn't help but walk over. What happened? Why was the mountain guarding formation torn apart? Skygold? An old man noticed the heavily injured senior brother Skygold and walked over. After examining senior brother Skygold's injuries, the old man took out a spiritual medicine. After consuming the spiritual medicine, senior brother Skygold's injuries recovered slightly. Sect Master, it's like this, senior brother Skygold hastily explained everything that had happened. However, he pushed all the blame to Chu Fengmian. They were only asking ordinary questions, but they were all injured by Chu Fengmian. Does this mean that the cultivator that Louis brought back is extraordinary? And his origin is unknown? It's possible that he's a wanted criminal of the Empire. Don't act rashly. I'll go find a few elders to discuss this. The brilliant heaven sect master's eyes flickered. After pondering for a while, he disappeared. The other brilliant heaven sect's disciples were also taken away to rest and recuperate. On the other side, Chu Fengmian brought Lu Yi and flew out of the brilliant heaven sect before stopping. I'm taking you away because I need your help. Where can I buy spiritual medicines and spiritual pills nearby? Chu Fengmian slowly said. The most important thing right now was to find some spiritual medicines and spiritual pills to heal Chu Fengmian's injuries. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, it would be extremely dangerous for him to encounter true experts in old antiques. Chu Fengmian would only be able to move around without fear after recovering at least half of his strength. Now that he had come to this damned place, he needed Lu Yi's help. He could also ask her about the situation here. Most of our brilliant heaven sect's disciples pick herbs and refine them ourselves. If you want to buy them, you have to go to Yushan City, which is 100,000 miles away. Lu Yi said respectfully as she pointed in a direction. Let's go. Chapter 1043. This is a spatial tunnel? Lu Yi was caught in Chu Fengmian's hand as they traveled through the spatial tunnel. She had been brought into the spatial tunnel by a life and death elder of the Brilliant Heaven sect. However, the spatial tunnel formed by that life and death elder was extremely dangerous and unstable. The slightest carelessness could cause it to shatter. But now, Chu Fengmian's spatial tunnel was stable. Even she couldn't sense any danger. What is this senior's strength? I don't know if it was right or wrong for me to save him. Lu Yi looked at Chu Fengmian and couldn't help but think. However, when she thought of the conflict between Chu Fengmian and the Brilliant Heaven sect, she panicked. After all, she wasn't afraid of Chu Fengmian, but if the Brilliant Heaven sect retaliated, she would be finished. Don't worry, the Brilliant Heaven sect won't dare to do that to you. Seeing Lu Yi's worry, Chu Fengmian smiled and asked. Right, who is that senior brother Tianjin and senior sister Sun who was with you before? Although Chu Fengmian didn't put the Brilliant Heaven sect's people in his eyes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy could you win 100 battles. Moreover, Xing Xian had said that the Broken Bone Rebirth arc came from the Brilliant Heaven sect. This made Chu Fengmian pay more attention to this small sect. Senior sister Sun is called Sun Yan, a disciple who entered the Brilliant Heaven sect with me. However, her aptitude is a bit better and has already been promoted to an inner disciple. Senior brother Tianjin is called Su Tianjin, a disciple of our Brilliant Heaven sect's sect master. Senior injured him before, so I'm afraid he won't let it go. Lu Yi reminded. Sect master's disciple? No matter. If he dares to provoke me again, I'll make sure you won't be able to leave. Chu Fengmian said casually. He didn't even put the Brilliant Heaven sect's sect master in his eyes. However, this Brilliant Heaven sect had some secrets. Chu Fengmian could go back and investigate. Where's this place? Chu Fengmian continued to ask. This is the Desolate Region, a part of the ancient monster continent. Our Desolate Region is a remote place of the ancient monster continent. Lu Yi answered Chu Fengmian's question, although she was puzzled. Ancient monster continent? What an unfamiliar name. Chu Fengmian could not recall any records of the 9 zones regarding the ancient monster continent. However, he was certain that this was indeed an extraterritorial starry sky. Xingxuan, do you know about the ancient monster continent? Chu Fengmian asked Xing Xian. Xing Xian came from the extraterrestrial starry sky, so Chu Fengmian should know more. Oh? Why did he come to the ancient monster continent? It's quite far from the 9 realms. There are dozens of planes between them. When Xing Xian heard Chu Fengmian's words, he recalled for a moment before slowly speaking. The ancient demonic continent is a continent where demonic beasts rule. It's much larger than the 9 realms, but there are also some humans here. It's not a bad thing for you. There are many heavenly treasures in the ancient monster continent that are beneficial to demonic beasts. You've cultivated the dragon fighting spell, so your bloodline is no longer human. These heavenly treasures will be of great use to you. If you can go to the sacred dragon mystery realm. Forget it. You'd better heal your injuries and recover your strength first. After Xing Xian finished speaking, he went back to sleep. Holy Dragon Mystery Plane? What was that place? But I'd better recover my strength first before I can move around the ancient monster continent. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. What he needed to do now was to recover his strength, and then go find Luo Shi and Han Yueli. Chu Fengmian could clearly feel that Luo Shi and Han Yueli were also in the ancient monster continent, but they were still far away from Chu Fengmian. Senior, we're almost at Yushan City. Lui saw that Chu Fengmian was silent, so she hurriedly said. Okay. Chu Fengmian pulled back his thoughts and nodded. He looked ahead and saw a tall city. This city was a Ningzhou ancient city, but it was still inferior. But it was normal that the desolate realm was not as prosperous as the ancient monster continent. Chu Fengmian wondered if he could find the spiritual herbs he needed. Let's go in. Chu Fengmian brought Lui to Yushan City. They left the spatial tunnel and descended. Senior, each entry to Yushan City costs a mid-grade spiritual stone. I'll wait outside. Lui suddenly said to Chu Fengmian in front of Yushan City. It's just a mid-grade spiritual stone. It's okay. Come with me. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but smile at Lui's words. With his wealth, he naturally cared about this little bit. Stop. Everyone has to pay 5 mid-grade spiritual stones to enter the city. When they arrived at the city gate, several cultivators came out from the surroundings to stop them. They glanced at Chu Fengmian and Lui with disdain in their eyes. You can't afford it. Get out of here. What? 5? Don't we usually only need 1 mid-grade spiritual stone to enter? Hearing the words of those cultivators, Lui angrily said from the side. That's normal. Today, young Master Lei is here in person. No one is allowed to disturb him. If you can't afford it, get out of here. A cultivator snorted coldly, his eyes revealing a hint of disdain. He couldn't see Chu Fengmian's cultivation level. He looked like an ordinary person. Lui was only in the Divine Sea realm, so they didn't put her in their eyes. Lui wanted to say something, but she was stopped by Chu Fengmian. A mid-grade spiritual stone suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's palm. Come, let's go in. Chu Fengmian took the mid-grade spiritual stone and brought Lui into Yushan City. Chu Fengmian had just arrived, so it wasn't appropriate for him to start a conflict with Yushan City. It was said that the city lord of Yushan City was also an emperor. Chu Fengmian's recovery was more important. He couldn't be bothered to start a conflict with an emperor over a few spiritual stones. Which is the biggest merchant guild in Yushan City? Chu Fengmian asked Lui. The spirit medicine he was looking for was naturally not something an ordinary chamber of commerce could take out. The biggest merchant guild in Yushan City is the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild in the heart of Yushan City. However, although the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild's items are of high grade, they're also very expensive. They're all settled with top-grade spiritual stones. Lui reminded from the side. Other merchant guilds will sell the same items at a lower price. Therefore, our Radiant Heaven sect usually goes to other merchant guilds. Don't bother. Let's go to the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild. Chu Fengmian said calmly. He didn't lack wealth. Even if Chu Fengmian's divine vein was broken, the wealth in his empty ring was enough for him to squander. Yes. Chapter 1044. Although Yushan City wasn't big, it was bustling. According to Lui, there was only one Yushan City within 100,000 miles. Therefore, the disciples of the hundreds of sects nearby would come to Yushan City to trade. However, Chu Fengmian was surprised to see that there were so many demon immortals in Yushan City. There weren't that many demon immortals in the entire 9 regions. Human martial artists were the minority here. Xingxuan said that the demon ancient continent was ruled by demon immortals. I didn't expect there to be demon immortals everywhere. There are even many life and death realm demon immortals who have stepped onto the steps of life and death. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but exclaim. There were so many demon immortals here. It was more than what he had seen in his life. It was an eye-opener. However, these Fey immortals looked no different from human martialists. They had already taken human form. Aside from the fact that they were Fey immortals, there was no difference in their movements. It wasn't too strange. Chu Fengmian observed along the way. Not long after, Chu Fengmian saw a tall building in the heart of Yushan City. The building was a few hundred meters tall and had 7 floors. Outside the building, there were 2 enormous ancient serpents carved on it, giving it an intimidating appearance. "Senior, this is the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild." Louis pointed at the building in front of them.
"Oh?
This Ancient Snake Merchant Guild is even bigger than the City Lord Mansion?" Chu Fengmian looked at the building, which seemed to be even bigger than the City Lord Mansion next to it. It seemed that the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild status in Yushan City was even higher than the City Lord Mansion. Of course. The Ancient Snake Merchant Guild was established by the royal family of the Ancient Snake Nation. It has a high status, Louis replied. Yes. Chu Fengmian nodded. The Ancient Snake Nation. It seemed that the ancient continent of monsters was different from the 9 regions, where sects were the most respected. However, it didn't matter to Chu Fengmian. He couldn't be bothered. He just hoped that the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild would have the spiritual pills he needed. Chu Fengmian and Louis went straight to the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild. Although the Ancient Snake Merchant Guild's prices were high, it was still the largest merchant guild. There were countless demon immortals coming and going. Even the weakest of these demon immortals was a saint at the Divine Force realm. Seeing that Louis was only at the Spirit Sea realm, and Chu Fengmian, whose realm they couldn't see clearly, had reached it, many people were slightly surprised. "Your Excellencies, are you here to purchase spirit herbs, spirit tools, or spirit pills?" However, the white-clothed woman standing to the side still hastily came over to greet them. It seemed that Chu Fengmian and Louis couldn't afford it. But the Ancient Snake Merchant Association's service still had to be done up to standard and did not dare to slack off. "That's right. I need some spiritual herbs and spiritual pills. Take me to the 7th floor." Chu Fengmian said calmly. Louis had previously told Chu Fengmian that the Ancient Snake Merchant Association had a total of 7 floors. The higher the floor, the higher the grade of the elixirs and pills sold. Given Chu Fengmian's needs, it was only natural for him to go straight to the 7th floor. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the white-clothed woman seemed to hesitate. "Sir, you should take a look at the 1st floor first. If there isn't anything, you can go to the higher floors." The white-clothed woman said tactfully, but the meaning of her words was very clear. With Chu Fengmian and Louis's realm, they might not even be able to afford things on the 1st floor, let alone the 7th floor. The 7th floor of the Ancient Snake Merchant Association was something that even ancestors who had reached the life and death steps might not be able to afford. "There's nothing to see on the 1st floor. Take me directly to the 7th floor." Chu Fengmian repeated. Looking through the floors one by one, Chu Fengmian didn't feel like wasting time. "Ha, a little guy actually wants to go to the 7th floor? You're overestimating yourself. I'm afraid you can't even afford the things on the 1st floor." At this moment, an insolent voice suddenly sounded from Chu Fengmian's side. Chu Fengmian followed the voice and saw a middle-aged man. No, it should be said that he was a demonic god, a peak life and death demonic god. Chu Fengmian felt a surge of demonic chi from his body. "So it's Lord Leisure." The white-clothed woman beside Chu Fengmian respectfully said after seeing the peak life and death demonic god. "Welcome to the Ancient Snake Merchant Association, Lord Leisure. I'll go find someone to serve you." "No need. I think Miss Qing Dai should accompany me." "As long as you accompany me, I'll buy a few more things." Lei Shi laughed and glanced at Chu Fengmian at the same time. As for these two poor bastards, you better get lost. The Ancient Snake Merchant Association isn't a place where you can enter. Go to the Small Merchant Association next door. Chu Fengmian frowned. He was too lazy to cause trouble, but he didn't expect to be humiliated like this. Where did this old bastard come from? How dare he be so arrogant here? Chu Fengmian said coldly. He didn't want to cause trouble, but it didn't mean that he was afraid of it. The moment the 3 words "old bastard" came out, all the martial artists on the first floor of the Ancient Serpent Chamber of Commerce were stunned. The white-clothed woman, Qing Dai, was so scared that her face turned pale. Is this brat courting death? He actually dares to provoke Lei Shi? Does he think that Lei Shi won't dare to make a move in the Ancient Snake Merchant Association? It's over, it's over. The Ancient Snake Merchant Association is going to be bathed in blood today. A few attendants of the Ancient Snake Merchant Association had pale faces. Something was going to happen. Little bastard, you're courting death. Lei Shi's face suddenly became furious. The words "old bastard" simply provoked the anger in his heart. Lei Shi's bloodline wasn't pure, and he was called a bastard since he was young. As his strength increased, no one dared to mention it. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to mention it in front of everyone today. Lord Lei Shi, please calm down. This is the Sky Snake Merchant Association. You, Qing Dai, wanted to mediate the situation. Get lost. Even if your president is here today, this brat must die. Brat, die. Lei Shi suddenly reached out and grabbed at Chu Fengmian. Boom! As soon as Lei Shi attacked, his demonic energy burst out and forced the surrounding martial artists to retreat. No one dared to get close. His fingernails had become extremely sharp. With this claw, he was going to crush Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi's bodies. You can't even see through my strength, and you dare to attack in front of me? Chu Fengmian snorted in the face of Lei Shi's attack. He also attacked with a claw in the air. Chapter 1045. What? Qing Dai, Lu Yi, and all the other warriors present were stunned. Chu Fengmian fought with Lei Shi, and Lei Shi was sent flying with just one move? Lu Yi was fine. She already knew that Chu Fengmian was powerful. But Qing Dai and the other warriors were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell out. They kept blinking, afraid that they had seen wrongly. Lei Shi had been famous for a long time. He was only one step away from the steps of life and death to become a patriarch. Usually, he was the one who sent others flying. When had he ever been sent flying by a claw? Little bastard, I didn't expect you to hide your strength. But even if you hide your strength, you will die today. Lei Shi jumped down from the pillar, and his eyes became even more fierce. His body suddenly changed and turned into a huge python. This was his true form, and he whipped his body at Chu Fengmian. You're injured so little? Chu Fengmian was surprised to see that Lei Shi could still move. It seemed that this monster's defense was indeed much stronger than a warrior's. If it were another warrior, they wouldn't be able to stand up. To Lei Shi, it wasn't much of an injury, but it angered him. However, Chu Fengmian was still expressionless. Faced with the incoming snake tail, Chu Fengmian merely grabbed in a casual manner. With a bang, the enormous python landed in Chu Fengmian's palm. Get lost. If you dare to appear in front of me again, you will die. Chu Fengmian grabbed Lei Shi and threw him out of the Ancient Snake Merchant Association. He was thrown out like a dead dog. Boom! Lei Shi was smashed to the ground and returned to his human form. He looked at Chu Fengmian with hatred in his eyes, but he still left with his tail between his legs. Can you take me to the 7th floor now? Chu Fengmian withdrew his spiritual power and returned to his previous appearance. They couldn't feel a trace of spiritual power from Chu Fengmian's body, but this time, everyone looked at Chu Fengmian with no contempt. After all, someone who could easily defeat Lei Shi was at least a patriarch who had stepped into the steps of life and death. Feeling the admiring gazes, Chu Fengmian sighed inwardly. Indeed, even after leaving the 9 zones, the ancient monster continent still respected strength. Yes. Senior, please follow me. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Qing Dai reacted and brought Chu Fengmian to a higher floor. Senior, Lei Shi is young Master Lei's bodyguard. Since you have defeated him today, he will not let this matter rest. Once you are done with your business, you should leave the city and hide for a while. Qing Dai hesitated for a moment before reminding Chu Fengmian. Thank you. Chu Fengmian looked at Qing Dai and nodded without saying anything else. On this trip to Yushan City, Chu Fengmian had to at least buy a set of elixirs to refine elixirs before he could return with satisfaction. As for Lei Shi, it wasn't enough to stop Chu Fengmian's plan. Qing Dai quickly brought Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi to the 7th floor. Along the way, there were also martial artists from other layers. When they saw Chu Fengmian's realm, they were slightly surprised, but they didn't say anything. Since he was brought here by an attendant of the ancient snake trading company, it proved that Chu Fengmian had the qualifications to go to the 7th floor. After all, the qualifications to enter the 7th floor didn't only require strength. For a trading company, wealth was the most important. Shopkeeper Wang, a senior, wants to come to the 7th floor to buy elixirs. When they arrived at the entrance of the 7th floor, Qing Dai called out in a low voice. Oh? Someone wants to come to the 7th floor. Come in. Not long after, an aged voice rang out from the 7th floor. Qing Dai, you can leave now. Your reward will not be lacking. Yes. Qing Dai respectfully nodded her head and then left. Only Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi managed to reach the 7th floor. When they stepped into the 7th floor, Chu Fengmian felt that the surrounding space was spinning. Lu Yi wasn't aware of it, but Chu Fengmian could see it. This was a teleportation array that seemed to bring Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi to another place. In the blink of an eye, Chu Fengmian arrived at a room. At the door of the room, there was an old man waiting for Chu Fengmian. This old man is Wang Jinliu, the shopkeeper of the 7th floor. Wang Jinliu glanced at Chu Fengmian with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Soon after, his eyes returned to calmness. Sirs, please come in. Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi walked into the room together and found a chair to sit down. At a glance, the room was covered in forbidding auras, and was encapsulated by a single formation. Obviously, this was an extremely hidden place. From their conversation, even old Ancestor Wu might not be able to eavesdrop. Sirs, is this your first time coming to the 7th floor of the ancient snake trading company? Wang Jinliu looked at Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi and said with a smile. I don't think there's anyone like you in my mountain city. Wang Jinliu's words were somewhat probing. This Wang Jinliu wasn't a weakling. On the contrary, Chu Fengmian could see that this person's strength had reached the peak of the 6th step of the life and death steps. However, even with his strength, he couldn't see through Chu Fengmian's realm. In his view, Chu Fengmian was just like an ordinary person without the slightest spiritual energy. Of course, Wang Jinliu wouldn't treat Chu Fengmian as an ordinary person. Previously, when Chu Fengmian attacked Lei, he clearly saw it. This was enough to prove that either Chu Fengmian's strength was stronger than him, or Chu Fengmian cultivated an extremely profound cultivation technique. No matter which one it was, he had to be cautious. Does the ancient snake trading company need to ask so many questions when doing business? Hearing Wang Jinliu's probing, Chu Fengmian coldly said. If you need to ask so many questions, then I'll leave. No, of course not. It's just that this old man is good. When our ancient snake trading company does business, as long as you can take out the spiritual stones, you don't need to ask anything. Seeing that Chu Fengmian was a little angry, Wang Jinliu hurriedly changed the topic. I wonder what kind of spiritual herbs you need. Spiritual pills? Everything I need is recorded here. Chu Fengmian pointed his finger, and a surge of spiritual energy turned into a jade talisman in his palm. He directly handed it over to Wang Jinliu. In this jade talisman, there were hundreds of spiritual herbs and spiritual pills that Chu Fengmian needed. Chapter 1046. Oh? Wang Jinliu took the jade talisman and poured his spiritual energy into it. Then, he carefully examined it. There was nothing that the ancient snake chamber of commerce couldn't buy with their resources. Dragon blood grass, blood crystal, ancient sacred wood. Wang Jinliu couldn't help but frown when he saw the names in front of him. Wang Jinliu's brows furrowed even more when he saw the names that were recorded one after another. When he finished reading the last name, Wang Jinliu couldn't help but look at Chu Fengmian with a strange expression. There were so many things recorded in the jade talisman that Wang Jinliu suspected that Chu Fengmian had deliberately come to the ancient snake chamber of commerce to cause trouble. There were many sacred elixirs recorded in the jade talisman. There were even sacred elixirs and sacred elixirs. In the ancient Fey continent, sacred elixirs were almost legendary. Fortunately, Wang Jinliu didn't find anything unusual when he looked at Chu Fengmian. His suspicions gradually disappeared. Our ancient snake chamber of commerce doesn't have enough resources to buy these things. We only have a portion of them. Wang Jinliu sorted out his thoughts and looked at Chu Fengmian. It's just that these things are expensive. Wang Jinliu couldn't help but curse when he said this. Not only was the price exorbitant, but most of the items recorded in the book were so expensive that even a patriarch would go bankrupt if he were to purchase a single item. He even doubted that Chu Fengmian could take out so many spiritual stones. The spiritual stones are easy. Give me everything recorded in the jade talisman. Chu Fengmian laughed when he heard Wang Jinliu's words. He suddenly threw an empty ring to Wang Jinliu. Wang Jinliu took the empty ring and injected some spirit qi into it. When he opened it, he saw a mountain of spirit stones piled up inside. Furthermore, all of them were royal-grade spirit stones. Every one of them was invaluable. Even Wang Jinliu was stunned when he saw the spiritual stones in the empty ring. He had already stayed on the 7th floor of the ancient Serpent Merchant Association for dozens of years, and had taken over countless transactions. Even though each transaction involved a huge sum. Although each transaction was huge, the number of spiritual stones he had taken over the past few decades couldn't even compare to 1/10 of the spiritual stones in the empty ring. Where did this person come from? Even the princes of the empire would not be able to take out such a huge amount of wealth. Could it be that this person was the representative of that prince? Was that why he needed so many spiritual medicines and spiritual pills? Are you going to fight for the throne? Wang Jinliu guessed. No matter who he is, this deal is settled. Wang Jinliu quickly reacted and smiled at Chu Fengmian. Young master, please wait for a moment. I will be right back. Yes. Chu Fengmian nodded and sat quietly by the side, waiting. Wang Jinliu quickly returned to his room. There was also an empty ring on his hand. There's dragon's blood grass, blood crystals. There's a total of 73 treasures that young Master Chu needs. Wang Jinliu handed the empty ring to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian opened the empty ring and looked around carefully. The 73 types of elixirs and elixirs were indeed what Chu Fengmian needed. Moreover, each of them was of good quality. None of them were just there to make up the numbers. The quality of the ancient snake trading company is as outstanding as the rumors say. Chu Fengmian slowly opened his mouth. Chu Fengmian was very satisfied. The 73 types of elixirs and elixirs were enough to heal part of Chu Fengmian's injuries. But, there's no dragon snake fruit? To Chu Fengmian, the best elixir for healing injuries was the dragon snake saint elixir. With the dragon snake fruit as the main ingredient and 10 other elixirs, the dragon snake saint elixir could heal most of Chu Fengmian's injuries. He had already found the 10 elixirs needed to refine the dragon snake fruit. Only the dragon snake fruit was missing. Oh? Our ancient snake merchant association originally had a few dragon snake fruits, but they were all bought by Mr. Lei this morning. Mr. Chu is still a step too late. Wang Jinliu said. Young Master Lei again? This was the third time Chu Fengmian heard young Master Lei's name since he came to Yushan City. The first time was at the city gate, when the martial artists said that young Master Lei had come to Yushan City. The second time was when Chu Fengmian injured Lei Shi, who was said to be young Master Lei's guard. Now, the dragon snake fruit was also bought by young Master Lei. It seemed that Chu Fengmian and young Master Lei were fated. Louis, who is young Master Lei? Chu Fengmian asked Louis. It seemed that this Mr. Lei was quite a character, and was worth paying attention to. Louis was surprised to hear that Chu Fengmian did not know who young Master Lei was. However, Louis was used to Chu Fengmian's questions. She could tell that Chu Fengmian was not from the Desolate Domain, so he did not know much about the Desolate Domain. Young Master Lei's name is Lei Ming. He is the son of the supervisor of the 10 cities nearby. His father, Lei Yan, is a marquis of the empire. Yushan City is under Lei Yan's control. Louis replied. The son of the supervisor? No wonder. Chu Fengmian had learned about the situation of Yushan City from Louis. The desolate domain where Yushan City was located was actually under the control of the ancient Snake Country. The ancient Snake Country was one of the 3 great countries of the ancient Monster Continent. These 3 great countries controlled the ancient Monster Continent. The Emperor of the ancient Snake Continent, the ancient Snake Emperor, was said to be the most powerful person in the ancient Snake Country. He was also one of the strongest people in the ancient Monster Continent. He was as famous as the other 2 Heavenly Rock Emperors and Dragon God Emperor. These 3 emperors were the strongest people in the ancient Monster Continent. It was said that all 3 of them were Emperor Realm Masters. They were real emperors, not quasi-emperors like the Heavenly Demon Supreme Lord that Chu Fengmian had killed. The ancient Snake Country has an Emperor Realm Master. It seems that I can't provoke an Emperor Realm Master. Even if I recover my full strength, I will definitely die. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. A real Emperor Realm Master was countless times more terrifying than a quasi-emperor. At least, with Chu Fengmian's current strength, he would definitely die if he provoked a real Emperor Realm Master. However, the ancient Snake Emperor was at the peak of the ancient Monster Continent. Ordinary trifles would not provoke him. As long as Chu Fengmian did not do anything earth-shattering, he would be safe for the time being. However, the existence of an Emperor Realm Master still made Chu Fengmian feel pressured. Strength, I need to have enough strength. Otherwise, I will fall into a dangerous situation again. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. The battle with the Heavenly Demon Supreme Lord made him realize that he was not strong enough. Chapter 1047. I should recover from my injuries first. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. His injuries were so serious that he should recover first before he could move around in the ancient Monster Continent. How many spiritual stones are these spiritual herbs and spiritual pills worth? Chu Fengmian looked at Wang Jinliu and asked. Although he was rich, he still wanted to ask to avoid being cheated. The dragon blood grass is worth 1 million spiritual stones. The blood crystal is worth 2 million spiritual stones. The beautiful silk sacred herb is worth 10 million spiritual stones. Wang Jinliu started to quote the prices one by one. He knew the prices of all the treasures in the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce like the back of his hand. Soon, the prices of the 73 treasures were all quoted. All 73 treasures are worth 235 million spiritual stones in total. I'll give you 230 million spiritual stones. Wang Jinliu said to Chu Fengmian with a smile. This was the biggest deal he had made since he became the shopkeeper of the 7th floor. His status in the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce would skyrocket after this deal. Wang Jinliu made up his mind to befriend Chu Fengmian. As long as he was on good terms with Chu Fengmian, he would have a bright future. Chu Fengmian looked at Louis when he heard the price. He didn't know the prices in the ancient Monster Continent, but Louis did. Seeing Louis nod, Chu Fengmian knew that the price was reasonable. It was much lower than the price in the 9 regions. All right, 230 million. Use royal-grade spiritual stones. Chu Fengmian grabbed the air and a large pile of royal-grade spiritual stones appeared in his hand. He then threw them to Wang Jinliu. Wang Jinliu counted them and saw that they were worth 230 million spiritual stones. He then put them all into his empty ring. Young Master Chu, this is the highest grade purple snake card of the ancient snake chamber of commerce. You only need to show this card when you visit the ancient snake chamber of commerce in the future. Wang Jinliu took out a purple jade talisman and gave it to Chu Fengmian. He wanted to rope in Chu Fengmian. After all, Chu Fengmian was so rich that it would be beneficial for him to make a deal with him. Chu Fengmian's expression did not change. He put away the purple snake card and prepared to stand up and walk out. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly turned his head and said, "Manager Wang, apart from the Ancient Serpent Merchant Group, are there any other merchant groups where I can buy the dragon serpent fruit?" Chu Fengmian looked at Wang Jinliu and asked unwillingly. As long as he could obtain the dragon snake fruit and refine the dragon snake saint pill, Chu Fengmian's recovery would be much faster. Rumor has it that Mr. Lei is about to make a breakthrough and needs a large amount of dragon snake fruits. He has already bought all the dragon snake fruits in Yushan City. If he wants to buy more, he would have to go to a city a few million miles away. Wang Jinliu pondered for a moment and suddenly thought of something. By the way, if young Master Chu is in a hurry, the ancient snake chamber of commerce will be holding an auction tonight, and the dragon snake fruit will be auctioned. The dragon snake fruit that will be auctioned does not belong to the ancient snake chamber of commerce, so you must purchase it at the auction. However, I heard that young Master Lei is determined to get the dragon snake fruit this time. If young Master Chu wants to compete with young Master Lei, I'm afraid it won't be good. It's better to wait for a period of time. A month later, another batch of dragon snake fruit will arrive. Wang Jinliu's words were a reminder. In Yushan City, competing with young Master Lei was definitely the stupidest choice. Even the city lord of Yushan City did not dare to do so. After all, young Master Lei's father, Lei Yan, was a supervisor with a high position and authority. A month's time? That's too long. Chu Fengmian shook his head and said. Chu Fengmian's top priority now was to recover from his injuries and then look for Han Yueli and Luo Shi. If he wasted a month's time here, who knew how many variables would appear? Chu Fengmian could not wait. Auction? With my wealth, I won't lose to anyone. Chu Fengmian softly muttered to himself. In tonight's auction, Chu Fengmian was determined to get the dragon snake fruit. No one could compete with him. Sigh. Hearing Chu Fengmian's muttering, Wang Jinliu sighed. He had already reminded Chu Fengmian, but since Chu Fengmian did not listen, there was nothing he could do. When will tonight's auction begin? Chu Fengmian did not care about young Master Lei. After all, once he recovered from his injuries, even if Supervisor Lei Yan came, Chu Fengmian would not be afraid. It's almost time for the auction to enter. The two of you did not make an appointment, so logically speaking, you can't participate. However, young Master Chu is our ancient snake chamber of commerce's distinguished guest. How about this? This old man will bring the two of you to participate. Wang Jinliu's eyes flickered as he said with a smile. Listening to Wang Jinliu's words, Chu Fengmian could tell that Wang Jinliu wanted to express goodwill towards him. It seemed like this deal with him would be of great benefit to Wang Jinliu. If he could establish a stable business relationship with Chu Fengmian, it would be even more beneficial for him. This little thought could not be hidden from Chu Fengmian. However, it was not disadvantageous for Chu Fengmian. On the contrary, it was more convenient for him. All right, then I'll have to trouble shopkeeper Wang. Chu Fengmian said with a smile. No problem, no problem. Wang Jinliu led Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi from the 7th floor and stepped into an array. Soon, they arrived at another large hall. This is the underground of the ancient snake chamber of commerce? Chu Fengmian spread out his spiritual sense and discovered that they were now underground of the ancient snake chamber of commerce. That's right. The auction of the ancient snake chamber of commerce is held underground. Wang Jinliu explained with a smile. Guests, please show your identity card. When they were about to enter the hall, a few cultivators at the side walked over and blocked them. Move aside. Don't you recognize this old man? Wang Jinliu snorted coldly. The cultivators looked at Wang Jinliu and their faces changed as they spoke in panic. So it's shopkeeper Wang. Why are you here? As the shopkeeper of the 7th floor, Wang Jinliu's status in the ancient snake chamber of commerce was extremely high. He usually did not participate in auctions. They did not expect him to come this time, so they did not react for a moment. I'm here to bring 2 distinguished guests to participate in the auction. Are there any vacancies in the skyboxes? Wang Jinliu said coldly. There was no dignity in his tone, which was completely different from when he was talking to Chu Fengmian. Yes, yes. The 3rd skybox is still vacant. I'll bring the 2 distinguished guests there. An attendant of the ancient snake chamber of commerce hurriedly said. There's no need. This time, this old man will bring the 2 distinguished guests. Young Master Chu, Miss Lu, please. Chapter 1048. They waited until Wang Jinliu brought Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi into the auction venue. Only then did the ancient snake chamber of commerce's attendants let out a sigh of relief. I didn't expect shopkeeper Wang to personally attend the auction. And he's actually receiving important guests? Who are those 2? The woman looks like she's only in the divine sea realm, and the man doesn't have any spiritual energy. Why is shopkeeper Wang personally receiving them? Looking at Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi's departing figures, the ancient snake chamber of commerce's attendants were still in disbelief. After all, with shopkeeper Wang's status, even if the sect master personally came, he might not be able to receive and accompany them. This was the first time shopkeeper Wang personally received someone. Don't ask. The matters of those big shots aren't something we can ask about. One of the cultivators suddenly said. We should just do what we're supposed to do and avoid causing trouble. That's right, that's right. Disperse. Hearing this, the attendants hurriedly dispersed. After all, with their status, if they really offended some big shots, they would be killed. Shopkeeper Wang. Shopkeeper Wang is here. Many people in the trading area recognized Wang Jinliu. Their faces were filled with astonishment as they hurriedly greeted him. I didn't expect shopkeeper Wang to personally come to the auction this time. Is there something shopkeeper Wang is interested in this auction? A middle-aged man greeted him with a smile. So it's Sect Master Lai. This old man is only here to accompany 2 important guests. Wang Jinliu looked at the middle-aged man and spoke indifferently. He didn't have the same smile as when he faced Chu Fengmian. This is the sect master of the Scorching Sun sect? Lu Yi couldn't help but exclaim when she saw the middle-aged man. The Scorching Sun sect was a sect that wasn't inferior to the Brilliant Sky sect. She didn't expect the sect master of the Scorching Sun sect to be so respectful in front of Wang Jinliu. Thinking of the contrast between Wang Jinliu and Chu Fengmian, Lu Yi's heart was in turmoil. I don't know who Senior Chu is, but being able to save Senior Chu is definitely the best thing I've done in my life. Lu Yi muttered to herself. Lu Yi, let's go. Chu Fengmian looked at the dazed Lu Yi and called out, waking her up. Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi followed Wang Jinliu all the way to the highest point of the auction venue and entered a private room there. Outside the trade fair, the discussions had yet to stop. What is the identity of that man and woman? I don't know. He looks unfamiliar. He doesn't look like someone from Yushan City. Shopkeeper Wang Jinliu personally received him? Could he be a young master of some sect? But that woman is only at the Spirit Sea realm and that man doesn't seem to have any spiritual power. Junior sect leader of the sect? Shopkeeper Wang doesn't even care about our identities, so why would he care about the junior sect master? Maybe he's a disciple of some big sect? Why would a disciple of a big sect come to a small desolate region? How could he be a member of the royal family? That's impossible. If the imperial family's disciples are here, City Lord Li must have shown up. It's impossible that he hasn't shown up yet. A series of discussions could be heard. Those 2? The sect leader of the Scorching Sun sect, who was talking to Wang Jinliu, was surprised. What's wrong? Brother Lai, Do you know the origin of those two? A few cultivators sitting beside him asked in a friendly manner. Now, they all wanted to figure out who Chu Fengmian and Louis were. I've never seen that man before, but I remember that the woman is a disciple of the Radiant Sky sect. I've seen her when I went to the Radiant Sky sect. The sect leader of the Scorching Sun sect recalled Louis's appearance. He had seen Louis once when he went to the Radiant Sky sect, so he found her familiar. Radiant Sky sect? How could they be disciples of the Radiant Sky sect? Several cultivators beside the sect leader of the Scorching Sun sect said in disbelief. The Radiant Sky sect's status wasn't much higher than the Scorching Sun sect's. Even the sect leader of the Radiant Sky sect had to be respectful to Wang Jinliu, let alone a mere disciple. How could Wang Jinliu personally receive a mere disciple of the Radiant Sky sect? That woman is already a disciple of the Radiant Sky sect, but that man isn't. Since Wang Jinliu personally received him, it should be that man. The sect leader of the Scorching Sun sect pondered for a moment and said, "Forget it. Let's wait and see. It's useless to guess now. The desolate region is so big. It's impossible to hide such a person from the public." That's true. The other warriors nodded their heads and stopped their discussion. However, the countless martialists present were still trying to guess the identity of this mysterious man and woman. I didn't expect to cause trouble this time. Please forgive me, young Master Chu. Wang Jinliu said helplessly to Chu Fengmian in the heaven room. With his status, it was indeed a little too eye-catching for him to appear in the auction. After all, this was the first time he had personally brought someone to an auction. It's just a small matter. It's fine. Chu Fengmian said indifferently. After all, he would attract people's attention when he auctioned his items. Shopkeeper Wang, other than the dragon snake fruit, what other valuable treasures are there in this auction? Can you tell me about the best elixirs and spiritual herbs? Chu Fengmian sat in the room, waiting for the auction to begin. He was bored and had nothing to do, so he suddenly asked Wang Jinliu. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had participated in an auction in the ancient monster continent. According to Xing Xian, there were many treasures that were beneficial to the cultivation of demonic beasts in the ancient monster continent. These treasures were very useful to Chu Fengmian and could even remind him of his strength. If there were any treasures in this auction, Chu Fengmian wouldn't mind bidding for them to increase his strength. After all, Chu Fengmian was rich and could buy as many treasures as he wanted. I can't reveal the items that are auctioned in advance. Wang Jinliu looked at Chu Fengmian and deliberately kept him in suspense. However, young Master Chu is an esteemed guest of the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce. There's no harm in revealing it to young Master Chu in advance. Other than the dragon snake fruit, there are 3 other items that are of the highest value. Chapter 1049. The ancient monster continent was a continent where demons reigned supreme. The 3 major countries all revered demon emperors, and countless experts were demon gods. A spiritual weapon that could restrain demonic beasts was definitely a hot commodity, especially a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. It was priceless. Chu Fengmian listened for a while and quickly lost interest. Although Chu Fengmian was a sword cultivator, he didn't lack spiritual swords. Whether it was the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword or the Titanic Divine Sword, they were all top-notch spiritual swords in the world. Moreover, Chu Fengmian also had the Bloodlust Demon Sword. Although the Snake Beheading Sword was good, it was useless to Chu Fengmian. Seeing that Chu Fengmian didn't care much about it, Wang Jinliu was speechless. The Snake Beheading Sword was probably something that all the experts present would fight to buy, but Chu Fengmian wasn't interested at all. Wang Jinliu was also a shrewd person. After seeing that Chu Fengmian wasn't interested, he quickly changed the topic. The second treasure is the Xian Pulse Grass. It can reshape a martial artist's spiritual meridians. It can make a martial artist's aptitude undergo earth-shaking changes, and generally, it will develop in a good direction. Wang Jinliu said. Although this treasure is useless to young Master Chu, it is useful to many experts. They also want better aptitudes for their descendants, so they will spend a lot of money to buy it. Xian pulse grass. The Xian pulse grass wasn't a sacred medicine, but its value was higher than a sacred medicine. It could reshape a martial artist's spiritual meridians and create a genius. In the 9 regions, Chu Fengmian had heard of the Xian pulse grass. In his previous life, the sword master had also gone to look for it. However, the Xian pulse grass had long been extinct in the 9 regions, so Chu Fengmian had only heard of it. He didn't expect it to exist in the ancient monster continent. It was a new experience for Chu Fengmian. However, it was meaningless to Chu Fengmian. He had a divine meridian and couldn't advance any further. Moreover, the Xian pulse grass was only useful to martial artists below the Saint Realm. Just as Chu Fengmian was about to open his mouth and ask Wang Jinliu to continue, he suddenly saw Lu Yi's longing gaze. Her eyes reminded Chu Fengmian of his previous life. Chu Fengmian back then was even more desperate than Lu Yi. At the very least, Lu Yi had one spirit vein, while Chu Fengmian hadn't even been able to condense one. You want this profound vein grass? Chu Fengmian looked at Lu Yi and suddenly said. Ah, no, senior. Before Lu Yi could speak, Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. All right, I'll buy this profound vein grass and give it to you. Lu Yi had never asked Chu Fengmian to do anything. After all, Lu Yi had saved Chu Fengmian once. Chu Fengmian felt uneasy if he didn't repay him. Senior, this Xian meridian grass is too precious, I am not qualified to accept it. Lu Yi said hesitantly. Naturally, she had heard of the mystic meridian grass. However, the price of the mystic meridian grass was astronomical to her. She would never be able to buy it even if she spent her entire life trying. It doesn't matter. Since you've helped me these past few days, this profound vein grass is your reward. Anyway, it doesn't cost much spirit stones. Chu Fengmian said casually. You don't have to say any more. Yes. Hearing this, Lu Yi could only remain silent and did not say anything. The profound vein grass cost a lot of spirit stones. Wang Jinliu's face twisted when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. If these words were heard by outsiders, they would definitely curse Chu Fengmian to death. After all, many sects had gone bankrupt in the competition for the profound vein grass. However, looking at Chu Fengmian, Wang Jinliu still felt somewhat helpless. Indeed, with Chu Fengmian's wealth, the profound vein grass was nothing. What's the third treasure? The snake beheading sword and the profound vein grass had already been sold, but they weren't of much use to Chu Fengmian. This made Chu Fengmian somewhat disappointed. Now, Chu Fengmian could only hope that the third treasure would be useful to him. The third treasure is a drop of blood essence, a drop of sovereign demon god's blood essence. Wang Jinliu said. He didn't explain any further. A drop of sovereign demon god's blood essence didn't need any explanation. As long as one was strong enough, they would know what kind of treasure it was. Among the countless items in this auction, the sovereign demon god's blood essence was enough to be ranked as the finale. Sovereign demon god's blood essence. The sovereign demon god's blood essence. Hearing Wang Jinliu's words, Chu Fengmian was finally shocked. For Chu Fengmian, devouring blood essence was also a means to improve his strength, especially with the sacred tree in his body. This sacred tree also needed to devour blood essence in order to grow. Even if it was only a drop of quasi-emperor blood essence, it was much better than the blood essence of countless supreme ancestors. Moreover, this was a drop of real sovereign demon god's blood essence. It was definitely of great use to Chu Fengmian. If used well, it was enough to make Chu Fengmian's strength undergo earth-shaking changes. Good, good, coming to the ancient monster continent is indeed an opportunity. Chu Fengmian was ecstatic. In the 9 regions, he couldn't even find or even hear of sovereign demon god's blood essence, let alone a drop of sovereign demon god's blood essence. With Chu Fengmian's bloodline, a demon god's blood essence was more suitable for him than a martial artist's blood essence. I must get this drop of sovereign demon god's blood essence. Chu Fengmian's eyes were firm. No matter who came to compete with Chu Fengmian, he must get this drop of sovereign demon god's blood essence. There was still some time before the auction began. Chu Fengmian couldn't wait any longer. "Shopkeeper Wang, I'll take a rest first. Remember to call me when the auction begins." Chu Fengmian calmed down. There was still some time before the auction began. Chu Fengmian had bought some spiritual pills from the ancient snake chamber of commerce. He could take them directly to restore his strength. "Okay." Wang Jinliu nodded and saw Chu Fengmian close his eyes. At the same time, Chu Fengmian quietly set up countless restrictions beside him. If anyone came to touch him, Chu Fengmian would immediately wake up to ensure his safety. After doing all this, Chu Fengmian quietly took out a few spiritual pills from the empty ring, put them in his mouth, and swallowed them directly. Chu Fengmian activated the Battle Dragon spell and devoured the medicinal power of these spiritual pills, starting to restore his divine veins. The 100,000 drops of ancient Battle Dragon blood essence in Chu Fengmian's body were not damaged, but his divine veins were broken, so he couldn't mobilize his spiritual power to exert his full strength. Chapter 1050. Chu Fengmian activated the dragon fighting technique and began to refine the medicinal efficacy of the spiritual pills. Chu Fengmian swallowed the elixirs and circulated his spiritual energy to refine them. The medicinal efficacy integrated into Chu Fengmian's divine meridians and repaired them. Chu Fengmian's divine meridians were almost broken, and most of them had fallen into a deep sleep. But as Chu Fengmian activated his spiritual meridians, the divine meridians in his body were slowly awakening and the cracks on his face were also slowly mending. For Chu Fengmian, as long as his divine meridians were restored, it was equivalent to restoring 80% of his strength. At that time, Chu Fengmian could really dominate the ancient monster continent. With Chu Fengmian's full strength, he was almost at the peak of the immortal realm. Even in the entire ancient monster continent, he was not considered weak. However, although the medicinal efficacy of these spiritual pills was strong, it was far from being able to completely restore his divine meridians. Although these spirit pills were all famous heaven-grade spirit pills, they could heal an ordinary martialist in an instant, even if they were severely injured. However, Chu Fengmian's vitality was too strong. He had cultivated the dragon fighting technique, so his essence blood was no different from that of a real ancient dragon. In Chu Fengmian's body, there was the sacred tree and the divine body of ice and fire, which were enough to enhance Chu Fengmian's body to an incredible level. Even the most powerful demonic beasts could not compare with Chu Fengmian's body. Once such a body was seriously injured, it would not be easy for it to recover. Chu Fengmian closed his eyes and devoted himself to restoring his divine meridians. He controlled the medicinal efficacy and restored his divine meridians little by little. The cracks on his divine meridians were gradually mended. Soon, the medicinal efficacy of these spiritual pills was completely consumed in Chu Fengmian's body. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's aura became stronger than before. His strength had increased by several times. Vaguely, Chu Fengmian's divine meridians had been restored by nearly half and 30% of his strength had been restored. With 30% of my strength, I can even defeat some supreme ancestors. Chu Fengmian slowly opened his eyes. He was quite satisfied with the result. Those spiritual pills had restored 30% of Chu Fengmian's strength, but Chu Fengmian had not condensed the most important Dragon Snake Saint pill. Once the Dragon Snake Saint pill was refined and devoured, Chu Fengmian's divine meridians would be completely restored. Chu Fengmian was determined to get the ancient snake auction's dragon snake fruit. Master Chu Fengmian's heart. The moment Chu Feng woke up, Wang Jinliu's voice came from the side. Master Chu Fengmian hid his power again. He looked no different from before. Fengmian's S. Yes, Saints Fengmian. S. Choose. He realms. S. Emperor King Emperor 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 Emperor's strength. Emperor S. His sovereign S realms Emperor 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 realm is. He. Wang Jinliu looked at Chu Fengmian. He knew that Chu Fengmian was stronger than him. Such a young Emperor realm expert could be considered a genius in the entire ancient monster continent. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was not a demon god, but a martial artist. In the ancient monster continent, martial artists were rare. Chu Fengmian did not care about Wang Zhenliu's suspicion. No matter how they investigated, they would never think that Chu Fengmian came from the distant 9 regions. At least, Chu Fengmian had never heard of the 9 regions. The first auction item is about to begin. It's precisely the item that young Master Chu likes. Young Master Chu, you can fight for it. Wang Zhenliu looked at Chu Fengmian and smiled. The ancient snake auction's order of items was a secret. No one knew about it. But with Wang Zhenliu's status, of course, he knew about it. Oh? The first item should be the Mystic Meridian Grass. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. He looked at the center of the auction hall, where a jade box had been placed. This jade box had countless restrictions placed on it. It was enough to prevent any cultivator's spiritual consciousness from seeing through it. But it could not hide from Chu Fengmian's spiritual sense. He scanned it with his spiritual sense and saw that the jade box contained a purple spiritual herb. It was the Mystic Meridian Grass. Master Chu Fengmian guessed right. The first item is the Mystic Meridian Grass. Wang Zhenliu said casually. He thought that Chu Fengmian had guessed it. He did not expect Chu Fengmian to see through the ancient snake auction's restrictions. The ancient snake auction's restrictions were said to be unbreakable even by a boundary emperor. But in front of Chu Fengmian, they were nothing. Chu Fengmian didn't pay attention to Wang Zhenliu's words. Instead, he continued to scan the spectator's stand with his spiritual consciousness. There were dozens of auction items of different sizes on the spectator stand. Soon, Chu Fengmian saw red fruit. The fruit looked like the head of a snake, but there were dragon scale-like patterns on its surface. It looked extremely strange and bewitching. Chu Fengmian recognized that it was the dragon snake fruit. Moreover, it was not an ordinary dragon snake fruit. It was a dragon snake fruit that had reached the level of a supreme sacred medicine. A dragon snake fruit like this could activate the dragon snake power in one's bloodline. It was extremely beneficial to both the snake tribe and the dragon tribe. It was said that Yushan City belonged to the ancient snake nation. The nobles of the ancient snake nation were the snake tribe. Therefore, the dragon snake fruit was highly sought after. It was worth a lot. The moment Chu Fengmian looked at the dragon snake fruit, he suddenly realized that the people in the second skybox were also discussing the dragon snake fruit. There were more than a dozen people in the second private room. They were both young and old, and they were all standing behind a young man like stars surrounding the moon. Lei Shi, who had been defeated by Chu Fengmian, was also among them. He stood to the side, looking extremely respectful. Chapter 1051. That young man clearly had a high status in this number 2 private room. The others were all his attendants. An old man standing beside the young man slowly opened his mouth and spoke as he looked at the viewing platform. This time, the old master sent us here to bid for the sovereign demon celestial essence blood. The old master's strength will reach the immoral realm as long as he takes another step forward. This matter cannot be failed. Young master, please calm down. The old man said slowly as if he was reminding the young man beside him. Head butler, don't say such discouraging words. The young master wants to avoid the dragon snake fruit. Is there anyone who dares to compete with the young master? Lei Shi, who was standing among the crowd, suddenly flattered the young man. When the time comes, as long as the young master announces his name, I believe these people will not dare to compete with the young master. That's true. There are only a few dozen small sects around Yushan City. Who dares to go against me? I would like to see who dares to compete with me for the dragon snake fruit. The young man smiled and said disapprovingly. Don't worry. The sovereign demon celestial essence blood and the dragon snake fruit will belong to me. Of course, no one will dare to compete with the young master. The few men standing at the side all smiled and echoed at the same time. Hearing the agreement, the young man showed a proud smile. He looked at Lei Shi and suddenly looked at the injuries on Lei Shi's body. Lei Shi, what happened? How did you get injured? I was tricked by a kid when I went to the ancient snake merchant guild. That kid hid his strength and caught me off guard. However, I had to leave in order to not cause any trouble for the young master. Lei Shi knelt before the young man and said in a tearful voice, "The ancient snake merchant guild dares to touch my people?" The young man's eyes were sharp. A mere ancient snake merchant guild in Yushan City, not the headquarters. How dare they go against me? That kid shouldn't be from the ancient snake merchant guild. Lei Shi said from the side. If he's not from the ancient snake merchant guild, then it's easier. After the auction ends, we'll issue an arrest warrant for him. I would like to see who dares to hurt my people. Head butler, I'll leave this matter to you. The young man looked at the old man beside him and ordered. Yes. When the old man heard this, he nodded and stopped talking. What they did not know was that their conversation in the number 2 Sky VIP room had already been clearly heard by Chu Fengmian. This person must be Mr. Lei. When Chu Fengmian saw the young man, he could tell that he was the Mr. Lei that everyone was talking about. Young Master Lei's strength was pretty decent. Chu Fengmian could tell that young Master Lei's strength was infinitely close to the heavenly fate realm. He could be considered to be at the pinnacle of the heart-refining realm. Compared to Wang Jinliu, his current strength might not be comparable to Wang Jinliu's, who had been accumulating strength for a long time. However, it was very likely that he would reach the heavenly mandate realm before Wang Jinliu. Once he became a ruler, their strengths would not be on the same level. However, even if they were geniuses, as long as they dared to oppose Chu Fengmian, only death awaited them. This was the case in the 9 domains, and it was the same in the ancient monster continent. The first item is coming out. A voice came from the center stage. After a wave of spiritual energy, an old man stood on the stage. Although the old man's hair was completely white, he still looked very energetic. His vitality was more vigorous than the average young man. It could be said that his strength had reached an extremely high level. He had already become a ruler. He was even stronger than the average ruler. He had already reached the 8th step of the life and death steps, the ultimate realm. The ancient snake auction actually allowed such an expert to host it. Chu Fengmian could not help but be surprised. The old man's status was probably higher than Wang Jinliu. He actually came to host the ancient snake auction personally. Young Master Chu, this is the great deacon of our ancient snake chamber of commerce. His position is only second to the president. Seeing the surprise in Chu Fengmian's eyes, Wang Jinliu explained with a smile. In the past, the head consecrator would not make an appearance in the auction. However, the value of the items being auctioned this time around is extremely high. That's why the head consecrator has personally made an appearance to prevent others from taking advantage of this opportunity to cause trouble. After hearing Wang Jinliu's words, Chu Fengmian nodded. The value of the auction this time was indeed extremely high. The blood essence of the sovereign demon god was something that even some sovereigns would not be able to resist taking the risk to snatch it away. It would indeed be unsafe if there was no expert to oversee the situation. The auction has begun. It was unknown who shouted this, but the clamor in the auction hall gradually died down. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the jade box on the stage. This is the first auction item of the ancient snake auction. The great deacon did not say much. At his level, there was no need for too much description. Everyone could see the value of the item with a single glance. The great deacon pointed his finger, and the jade box opened. Everyone's gaze fell on it. There was a purple spiritual herb lying quietly in the jade box. Although the purple spiritual herb was small, it attracted everyone's attention. Today's first auction item is the Xian Meridian grass. Everyone should know the effects of this Xian Meridian grass. It's enough to condense a new spiritual meridian. As long as you haven't become a saint, you can use it. It's the best spiritual medicine to improve your aptitude. The great deacon's loud voice resounded throughout the auction hall. Many sect masters looked at the mystic meridian grass with burning eyes. A mysterious meridian grass was enough to create a peerless genius. For these sect masters, it might be an opportunity for them to soar to the sky. Most of the sect masters who came this time were here for the mysterious meridian grass. There are at least a dozen sect masters who came for the mysterious meridian grass. It won't be easy for young Master Chu to get it. In the box, Wang Jinliu looked at Chu Fengmian and reminded him. The mysterious meridian grass was useless to Chu Fengmian. It was indeed a bit too extravagant to bid for it and give it to Louis. It doesn't matter. Chu Fengmian was expressionless. For him, wealth was just a number. As long as he recovered his divine meridians, he could condense a large amount of spiritual stones at any time. This amount of wealth was nothing. The starting price of the mysterious meridian grass is 10,000 supreme-grade spiritual stones. The great deacon waited for the crowd to stop exclaiming and called out a price. 10,000 top-grade spirit stones was definitely a very low number for the value of the Xian vein grass. 20,000 supreme-grade spiritual stones, 30,000. Chapter 1052. After the great consecrator announced the starting price, countless voices were heard. As a result, the price of the Xian meridian grass rose higher and higher. 100,000, 150,000, 200,000. The price of the mysterious pulse grass was getting higher and higher. Why? Young Master Chu, are you not going to bid? Wang Jinliu asked Chu Fengmian, who was sitting calmly at the side. It seemed like Chu Fengmian had no intention of competing for the mysterious pulse grass. The price of the mysterious pulse grass is at least 10 million spiritual stones. It's useless to compete for it now. Let them compete first. Chu Fengmian said casually as he watched the price of the mysterious pulse grass rise. The low price of the mysterious pulse grass was also a trick of the auction. The first item had to be hyped up so that the rest of the auction could proceed smoothly. Although the low price at the beginning was to make people compete fiercely, Chu Fengmian was too lazy to compete. He waited patiently for the price to reach its peak before bidding. The price rose faster and faster. 5 minutes later, the price of the mysterious pulse grass had risen to around 8 million supreme spiritual stones. This price was close to the original value of the mysterious pulse grass. The speed of the bidding slowed down significantly. 10 million. Suddenly, a bid that was obviously higher than the others resounded in the auction hall. Chu Fengmian looked in the direction of the voice. The bidder was the sect master of the Scorching Sun sect, who had spoken to Wang Jinliu before. The sect master of the Scorching Sun sect is here too. The young sect master of the Scorching Sun sect is said to be a rare genius. He has opened up 20 spiritual veins. If he is refined by the mysterious pulse grass, his aptitude will be even more amazing. No wonder the sect master of the Scorching Sun sect is so generous. The Scorching Sun sect was considered a large sect in the vicinity of Yushan City. Everyone recognized the sect master of the Scorching Sun sect when he bid. The price of 10 million lasted for a moment before another voice called out. This is a Xian meridian grass that is close to the best quality. How can it be worth a mere 10 million? A black-robed elder sitting not far from the sect master of the Scorching Sun sect laughed. This is the sect master of the Black Mountain sect. The Black Mountain sect originated from the Scorching Sun sect, which is no different from our Brilliant Heaven sect. Louis, who was sitting beside Chu Fengmian, explained. Oh? He was actually a demonic cultivator. It seems that the demonic Tao also exists in the ancient monster continent. Chu Fengmian looked over and saw the black-robed sect leader of the Black Mountain sect. This person's body was surging with demonic will. He was clearly a demonic cultivator. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had seen a demon Tao warrior since he had come to the ancient monster continent. However, where there was good, there must be evil. No matter where he was, he could find the shadow of the demon sect. 12 million. The Scorching Sun sect leader continued to raise the price without changing his expression. 13 million. The sect leader of the Black Mountain sect did not want to be outdone and continued to raise the price. Other than the two of them fighting over the item, there was no other sound in the auction hall. Chu Fengmian looked at the people in the other heaven boxes around him. It seemed that none of them were interested in bidding. It was the same for Mr. Lei. Although the Mystic Pulse Grass was good, it could only be used by the younger generation. Given Mr. Lei's strength, even if he obtained the Mystic Pulse Grass, he would not use it. Naturally, he would not compete for it. The two voices continued to sound in the auction hall, raising the price of the Mystic Pulse Grass higher and higher. The price had already reached close to 20 million higher-grade spiritual stones. At this point, the speed of each increase in the price had slowed down. For sects like the Scorching Sun sect and the Black Mountain sect, 20 million higher-grade spiritual stones was enough to hurt them. They had to consider it carefully. 20 million. The sect leader of the Black Mountain sect gritted his teeth and said. This price seemed to have reached his limit. 20 million. The sect leader of the Black Mountain sect is really generous. It seems that the Black Mountain sect has recently produced a peerless genius that is worth nurturing. We have to pay attention to him. It seems that the Black Mountain sect is going to rise. Discussions continued to sound. The sect leader of the Black Mountain sect had spent so much to bid for the Mystic Pulse Grass. Apparently, the Black Mountain sect had produced a genius disciple that was worth nurturing. Just when everyone felt that the price was about to be settled, a voice suddenly called out like a dark horse. 30 million. This voice came from the third skybox. A sudden increase of 10 million. This number made the sect leader of the Black Mountain sect's smile suddenly freeze. What? 30 million? Did I hear it wrong? A one-time increase of 10 million higher-grade spiritual stones? Who is this person? Third skybox. Isn't that shopkeeper Wang? And that couple? Could it be the bid of that couple? Countless gazes looked over, searching for the source of the voice. Many people turned their gazes towards the third sky VIP room. Many people still remembered that Wang Jinliu had brought Chu Fengmian and Lu Yi into the third skybox. Who are those two people? What a big deal. Go and find out when such people appeared in our desolate domain. The cultivators below were talking to each other, looking at the third skybox. They seemed to be thinking about something. Third skybox, 30 million higher-grade spiritual stones. Is there anyone else who wants to bid for the Mystic Pulse Grass? The Great Reverend stood on the stage. He was very satisfied with the price. Originally, the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce estimated that the Mystic Pulse Grass would be worth around 20 million higher-grade spiritual stones. After all, even the higher-grade Mystic Pulse Grass was only effective for cultivators below the Saint Realm. It was somewhat useless. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to suddenly appear and raise the price so much. No one dared to compete with Chu Fengmian for the price of 30 million higher-grade spiritual stones. Third skybox, 30 million higher-grade spiritual stones for the Mystic Pulse Grass. The Great Reverend made the final decision. The Mystic Pulse Grass was taken away. After a while, someone knocked on the door, and a young man came in with a jade box. Shopkeeper Wang? When he saw Wang Jinliu sitting there, the young man's face was full of surprise. This Mystic Pulse Grass was bought by a distinguished guest beside me. Leave it here, and send everything you bid for later. Wang Jinliu said coldly. Yes. The young man didn't hesitate. He left the Mystic Pulse Grass, closed the door, and left. At the same time, the Mystic Pulse Grass fell into Chu Fengmian's hands. Chapter 1053. Chu Fengmian opened the jade box and saw the Xian Meridian grass. Its purple color was extremely pure. This Xian Meridian grass was close to becoming a supreme-grade Xian Meridian grass. If used well, it was enough to turn an ordinary person into a peerless genius. Shopkeeper Wang, aren't you afraid that I'll take the Xian Meridian grass away? Chu Fengmian looked at Wang Jinliu and said with a smile. He remembered the rules of the ancient snake auction. The auction items could only be handed over after the auction ended. Only those who paid the spirit stones could take it away. Now that Chu Fengmian had just won the bid, the Xian Meridian grass was delivered to him. Obviously, this was all done by Wang Jinliu. The rules of the auction are only for others. If a distinguished guest like young Master Chu likes it, you can take the Xian Meridian grass away. Consider it a gift from this old man. Wang Jinliu heard Chu Fengmian's words and laughed. With Chu Fengmian's wealth, he wouldn't offend the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce for a mere Xian Meridian grass. The previous deal between Wang Jinliu and Chu Fengmian was enough to make up for this loss. Oh? It's just a Xian Meridian grass. I can afford it. This is a Saint-grade spirit stone worth 30 million Supreme-grade spirit stones. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and a Saint-grade spirit stone flew towards Wang Jinliu. Wang Jinliu caught it, glanced at it, and kept it in his empty ring. At this time, the second auction item had begun. It was a heaven-grade spirit pill that could strengthen one's body. Chu Fengmian wasn't interested in it. With his current body, even a heaven-grade spirit pill couldn't help him improve. Chu Fengmian had observed before. In this auction, apart from the dragon snake fruit, only the sovereign demon god's blood essence was useful to him. As for the other items, it was meaningless for him to buy them. As for the sovereign demon god's blood essence, it was clearly an item that could serve as the finale of the ancient serpent auction. It would not appear for the time being. The dragon snake fruit would appear later. It would only appear much later. I'll take advantage of this time to refine the Xian Meridian grass for you. Once the Xian Meridian grass is plucked, its spiritual energy will constantly disappear. Don't waste time. Chu Fengmian looked at Lu beside him and handed the Xian Meridian grass to her. Swallow it. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Lu swallowed the mysterious meridian grass without hesitation. Give up your cultivation and reconstruct your spirit vein. Don't fall unconscious. How far you can go with your talent will all depend on your own willpower. Chu Fengmian coldly said to Lu. Reconstructing a spirit vein was extremely painful. If he could not endure it, all his previous efforts would be wasted. Lu Yi's eyes were filled with determination. She had been waiting for this opportunity, and now that the opportunity had arrived, she wouldn't give it up. This gaze was very similar to Chu Fengmian's. Perhaps it was this gaze that made Chu Fengmian choose to help Lu this time. Boom! A large amount of spiritual qi dissipated from Lu Yi's body. Her cultivation of the divine sea realm was instantly destroyed. All her spiritual qi flew out and she became an ordinary person. The originally weak spirit vein in her body was also directly torn apart. At this moment, the power of the mysterious meridian grass that Lu Yi had devoured suddenly erupted. The medicinal power began to nourish the torn spiritual vein. Countless spiritual qi filled Lu Yi's body. The spiritual vein in Lu Yi's body condensed and tore again and again. Every time it was torn apart and reformed, the spiritual vein in her body would increase a little. Chu Fengmian had also experienced the pain of tearing apart a spiritual vein when he was condensing a divine vein. He knew that this pain was simply unbearable. If it wasn't for Chu Fengmian's second life and his hatred for the Sword Dao Master, he wouldn't have been able to endure it. Chu Fengmian didn't know how far Lu Yi could go. He could only quietly watch from the side and wait. Time ticked by, and soon, an hour had passed. Lu Yi's eyes were still closed as she continued to tear apart her spiritual vein. 25. Wang Jinliu, who was sitting on the side, was shocked when he saw this number. One had to know that Lu Yi's talent was the lowest. Now that she had opened up 25 spiritual veins, the pain she had to endure was absolutely unimaginable. Even Wang Jinliu asked himself if he could hold on for that long. What a resolute little girl. Wang Jinliu's eyes were filled with admiration. With such a resolute will and 25 spiritual veins, she would definitely become a powerhouse of her generation in the future. Not bad. Chu Fengmian also said those two words. Lu Yi's willpower was even stronger than he had imagined. However, 25 spiritual veins were already reaching her limit. Chu Fengmian looked at Louis, who was on the verge of fainting. "I'll give you a hand. Let's see how far you can go." Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. He suddenly attacked and bombarded Louis's head with his palm. The spiritual qi in his palm suddenly poured into Louis's body. In an instant, 5 more spiritual veins appeared in Louis's body. What? Helping others open spiritual veins? How is this possible? Wang Zhenliu's eyeballs almost fell out when he saw this scene. He had never heard of someone who could help others open spiritual veins. This was simply beyond his common sense. The medicinal power of the Xian meridian grass is really strong. I've only consumed 2/3 of it. I'll help you refine all the medicinal power of the Xian meridian grass. Chu Fengmian's spiritual qi entered Louis's body and helped her refine all the medicinal power of the Xian meridian grass. Boom! Louis's body once again underwent earth-shattering changes. From her back, 40 rays of light shone. 40 spiritual veins. Seeing this number, Wang Zhenliu was speechless. With 25 spiritual veins, one could be said to be a slightly famous genius. It was almost certain that one would step into the emperor realm in the future. 40 spiritual veins could be described as shocking. Even many supreme ancestors might not have the aptitude to open 40 spiritual veins. Louis's future was simply limitless. 40 spiritual veins, is this really me? Louis, who had just woken up, was dumbfounded when she saw the 40 spiritual veins in her body. This was simply something she had never dreamed of. One had to know that the number 1 genius of the Radiant Sky sect, Su Tianjin, only had 16 spiritual veins. Chapter 1054. After a long moment of shock, Louis suddenly reacted and knelt down in front of Chu Fengmian. "Senior, thank you for your kindness. Louis is willing to serve you for the rest of my life." Without Chu Fengmian, Louis wouldn't have been able to obtain 40 spiritual veins. Following Chu Fengmian was the best choice she had ever made. "It's fine. Get up. You just need to help me take charge of the Brilliant Heaven sect and work for me." Chu Fengmian looked at Louis and said calmly. Chu Fengmian knew nothing about the ancient monster continent, so he needed someone to help him gather information. Moreover, the ancient monster continent was as big as the 9 regions. Finding Hanueli and Luoshi there was like finding a needle in a haystack. It was too difficult for Chu Fengmian alone. It would be much easier with the help of a sect. Chu Fengmian helped Louis because he wanted to nurture her. "Senior Chu wants to deal with the Brilliant Heaven sect?" Louis stood up and was surprised to hear Chu Fengmian's words. She didn't expect Chu Fengmian to let her take charge of the Brilliant Heaven sect. Of course not. What does a mere Brilliant Heaven sect amount to? It's just that those trash provoked me. Naturally, they'll have to pay the price. Furthermore, I need your Brilliant Heaven sect to do something for me. Chu Fengmian said casually. "Cultivate in this room. Here are some elixirs that will help you with your cultivation. It's not time for you to work for me yet." Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and a few jade bottles flew towards Louis. "Yes." Louis nodded and took the jade bottles. She sat quietly on the chair and closed her eyes to cultivate. She also wanted to experience the effects of 40 spiritual veins. Chu Fengmian set up a soundproof barrier beside Louis so that the conversation outside wouldn't affect her. Wang Zhenliu suppressed the shock in his heart and said to Chu Fengmian, "Young Master Chu's means have really opened my eyes. It's just a little trick. It's not worth mentioning." Chu Fengmian said casually. He was too lazy to explain, but he was the only one in the world who could do that. Chu Fengmian had opened a spiritual vein and formed a divine vein before, so he knew the 49 spiritual veins in his body like the back of his hand. That was why he could help others open their spiritual veins. If anyone else had done what Chu Fengmian had done, the person who had opened up the spirit meridian would have died many times over. The auction of the dragon snake fruit should be happening soon. Fengmian's words. After helping Lu Yi condense her spirit vein, an hour later, the auction was about to begin. The dragon snake fruit would appear soon. The next auction item of the auction. Since Chu Fengmian didn't want to talk about it, Wang Jinliu wouldn't ask for a snub. I heard that young Master Lei is already here. He has declared that he's determined to get the dragon snake fruit. Of the auction. Chu Fengmian snorted. As long as his divine vein was restored, even Lei Yan, young Master Lei's father, would die if he dared to deal with Chu Fengmian. Next auction item. Soon, the auction item ended, and a jade box appeared on the stage. Inside the jade box was the red snakehead fruit that Chu Fengmian had seen before, the dragon snake fruit. The dragon snake fruit is a supreme-grade dragon snake fruit. I'm sure everyone here knows what it means, so I won't introduce it one by one. The Great Reverend said with a smile. The starting price of the dragon snake fruit is 1 million supreme-grade spiritual stones. 1 million supreme-grade spiritual stones? Many cultivators were stunned when they heard the starting price. An ordinary dragon snake fruit was worth about 500,000 supreme-grade spiritual stones. Although the dragon snake fruit was supreme-grade, they didn't expect the starting price to be so high. Someone will bid for it at such a high price? Some of the cultivators were in disbelief. However, before they could finish their words, a voice suddenly rang out. 5 million supreme-grade spiritual stones. I'll take the dragon snake fruit. Not far from Chu Fengmian, an insolent voice suddenly rang out from the sky number 2 private room. The owner of the voice was young Master Lei. I, Lei Ming, have great use for the dragon snake fruit. I hope everyone can give me some face. Although young Master Lei's voice was calm, everyone could vaguely hear the threat in his voice. Whoever bid at this moment was not giving young Master Lei any face. Young Master Lei is here personally. Seems like the rumors are true. Young Master Lei is about to make a breakthrough. That's why he's here to purchase the dragon snake fruit in bulk. I guess no one in Yushan City dares to compete with young Master Lei. When they heard young Master Lei's name, a few of the martialists who wanted to fight for it revealed a look of unwillingness on their faces. They gave up on bidding. It wasn't a wise choice to offend young Master Lei for a dragon snake fruit. For a moment, the auction hall was in complete silence. I say, no one dares to compete with young Master Lei. Housekeeper, you are too cautious. In skybox number 2, Lei sure said to young Master Lei when she saw the silence outside. Looks like young Master Lei will get the dragon snake fruit and the blood essence of the sovereign demon celestial. I don't think any of them will dare to compete with me. Young Master Lei was pleased with himself. At this moment, a discordant voice rang out. You want to buy the dragon snake fruit with just 5 million supreme-grade spiritual stones? 10 million. The voice rang out casually. The smile on young Master Lei's face froze instantly. In the auction hall. In everyone's opinion, young Master Lei had already announced his identity and no one would dare to compete with him for the dragon snake fruit. However, to his surprise, another voice suddenly rang out. This time, it was from the Sky Room 3. Damn it. Someone dares to compete with me. Young Master Lei was enraged. He was about to blow his top, but he was stopped by the old man beside him. Young Master, please consider the big picture. Now is not the time to clash with the ancient Snake Merchant Association. Don't forget the old master's order. Hearing the old man's words, the anger on young Master Lei's face eased up. Chapter 1055. This dragon snake fruit is of supreme grade. As long as young Lord can obtain it, he will be able to break through the life and death realm and become an old ancestor. At that time, no one in the desolate region will be able to compete with young Lord. In room 2, a martial artist tried to curry favor with young Master Lei. That's right. I must get this dragon snake fruit. Once I step into the dragon snake fruit, my father will take another step forward and we will be able to leave the desolate region and head to the imperial capital. Young Master Lei's eyes flickered as he spoke coldly. Just as he finished his words, another voice came from outside. 20 million. Casually, it was another bid that overpowered young Master Lei's bid. Damn it. Who the hell is it? How dare he compete with me? Young Master Lei thought that Chu Fengmian would not dare to compete with him after he bid again. However, he didn't expect that Chu Fengmian didn't care at all. He raised another price and directly suppressed him. 25 million. Young Master Lei suppressed his anger and spoke again. This time, from young Master Lei's voice, everyone could hear the fury in his heart. If Chu Fengmian continued to compete with young Master Lei, he would be challenging young Master Lei. Young Master Chu, why don't we stop? In room 3, Wang Jinliu looked at Chu Fengmian and said with lingering fear. He could already feel young Master Lei's anger. If they continued to compete with him, it would not be worth it. Stop? No one has ever asked me to stop. Chu Fengmian said casually. 30 million. Every time the bid was raised, the price would increase by 5 million supreme-grade spiritual stones. Even for some sects, taking out 5 million top-grade spirit stones in one go was a huge number. Even for young Master Lei, it was a huge sum. One should know that he would spend about 10 million supreme-grade spiritual stones in a year of cultivation. Raising the price a few times like this was already enough to waste the wealth he had accumulated over the years. It seems like you are not going to give me any face. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's not too late to stop now lest you offend someone you should not offend. Young Master Lei said coldly. These words were no longer a hint, but a threat. It was clear that he was threatening the person in the third private room of the sky. Even though this was an auction and threatening words were not allowed, given young Master Lei's status, as long as he didn't go overboard, Lin Fan wouldn't be offended. The people of the ancient snake trading company would not easily stop him. Someone I shouldn't have provoked? How could the famous Mr. Lei not be able to take out such a small amount of wealth? And he even threatened them? How embarrassing. If you're poor, don't come to the auction. You're just trying to scare people with your meager wealth. Chu Fengmian's mocking voice suddenly rang out in the third skybox. Uproar. Most of the warriors in the venue were shocked when they heard the meaning of these words. Where did this person come from? You don't even put Mr. Lei in your eyes? Initially, I thought that he was just a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of the tiger. To think that he actually knew of young Master Lei's identity and dared to compete with him. How ruthless. However, this person is extremely wealthy. I'm afraid that it won't be easy for young Master Lei to buy the dragon snake fruit from him. Let's take a look. Since young Master Lei has been arrogant for so long, it's time for someone to take him down a notch. The cultivators below were talking in low voices, all of them looking like they were watching a show. Since it was a fight between Chu Fengmian and young Master Lei, it wouldn't affect them. All they had to do was to watch the show quietly. Damn it. Damn it. This person is here to go against me. Investigate. Find out who this person is. I want to kill him and tear him into pieces. In the second skybox, young Master Lei was extremely furious after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. He couldn't wait to rush out and kill Chu Fengmian. Someone is tired of living and dares to go against young Master. We must find out his identity and kill him. Let's go and find the people of the ancient snake trading company and ask them who they are. How dare they go against young Master? The warriors beside young Master Lei had murderous intent surging in their eyes. Young Master, please calm down. We have to wait until the end of the ancient snake auction to investigate this person. Otherwise, if there is a conflict, it will be difficult to fulfill old Master's instructions. The chief butler said calmly from the side. Damn it. If it wasn't for Father's instructions, I would have killed him now. Young Master Lei's anger subsided a little. His eyes flickered as he suddenly yelled, 40 million. I'll bid 40 million. Young Master Lei raised the bid again. Being slapped in the face in public was something that young Master Lei had never encountered before. With young Master Lei's status, he would be respected and flattered wherever he went. Since when did someone dare to go against him? 40 million higher-grade spiritual stones for a dragon snake fruit. This was already throwing a tantrum and burning money. With young Master Lei's status, he couldn't take this lying down, 50 million. As soon as young Master Lei finished bidding, another voice could be heard, suppressing young Master Lei's bid. Great! In Sky Suite 2, young Master Lei's face revealed a sinister smile. Although he didn't seem to be angry, everyone knew that young Master Lei was truly enraged. He was thoroughly enraged. This person is already a dead man. When the auction ends, follow him. I want him to die without a burial place. Yes. The few martial artists beside young Master Lei left the suite and went to find out Chu Fengmian's identity. Since young Master Lei didn't bid, the dragon snake fruit was bid for by Chu Fengmian. Soon, it was sent to Chu Fengmian's suite. Higher grade dragon snake fruit. With it, I can refine the dragon snake saint elixir and fully recover from my injuries. Chu Fengmian looked at the dragon snake fruit and kept it. He didn't plan to refine the elixir on the spot. Refining the saint elixir wasn't an easy task for Chu Fengmian. It was too noisy in the auction venue. Moreover, it wasn't long before the auction of the sovereign demon god's blood essence. It was better to bid for the sovereign demon god's blood essence first and find a quiet place to refine the dragon snake saint elixir with the dragon snake fruit. Young Master Chu, please be careful. Young Master Lei's men have already found out about your identity. He wouldn't dare to take action in the dragon snake chamber of commerce, but once you're outside, I can't do anything. Chapter 1056. Wang Zhenliu's words reminded Chu Fengmian. Young Master Lei did not dare to deal with Chu Fengmian openly in the ancient snake merchant guild. However, things would be different once they left the ancient snake merchant guild. Given young Master Lei's character, he would definitely not let Chu Fengmian off since Chu Fengmian snatched the dragon snake fruit from him. It's all right. Chu Fengmian said calmly with an expressionless face. Young Master Lei's every move was under Chu Fengmian's control. As long as young Master Lei dared to harm Chu Fengmian could easily kill him. Chu Fengmian didn't care about the next few items. They were useless to Chu Fengmian, so he didn't make a move. The people in the heaven boxes beside Chu Fengmian did not make a move either. However, Chu Fengmian knew that these people were actually waiting for the last two auction items. The snake-slaying sword and the sovereign demon god's blood essence. These two auction items were the ones that attracted the true experts. The next auction item, the snake-slaying sword. The great consecrator slowly took out a spiritual sword. The spiritual sword was blood-red in color. Many demon gods felt a sense of fear when they saw the edge of the sword. The snake-slaying sword had a restraining effect on all demon gods as if it was their nemesis. Young Master Chu, are you really not interested in the snake-slaying sword? Wang Zhenliu asked curiously when he saw that Chu Fengmian did not even look at the snake-slaying sword. As long as a martial supremacy had the snake-slaying sword, it was enough to instill fear in the hearts of other demon gods. It had always been successful in battles between people of the same realm. Unexpectedly, Chu Fengmian was not interested in it at all. No matter how good the snake-slaying sword is, it's just an external object. Besides, it's only useful for demon deities below the Emperor realm. Demon deities below the Emperor realm all have extremely firm minds. This snake-slaying sword is useless. Chu Fengmian said casually. His current opponents were old ancestors of the immoral realm or even quasi-emperors. If the snake-slaying sword was in front of a quasi-emperor demon god, the quasi-emperor demon god would not even sneeze, let alone be afraid. It was not very useful to Chu Fengmian. Of course, for most martial artists below rulers, the snake-slaying sword was still very useful. The great consecrator had just announced the starting bid and the price of the snake-slaying sword increased. Finally, It was bought by an elder of the mind realm at the price of 100 million supreme spirit stones. Next should be the sovereign demon god's blood essence. Chu Fengmian looked at the stand. There was only one auction was the last auction item only auction was it was the venerable sovereign demon god's blood essence that Chu Fengmian had been looking forward to for a long time. Asked Master Fengmian Lord to ask him to lead her to Lord with hymns. S of them demon god of the demon god demon continent was demon continent. Therefore, Chu Fengmian was also very curious about which sovereign this demon god's blood essence belonged to. I don't know. I heard that it was a venerated sovereign from 100,000 years ago. This drop of venerated sovereign demon god blood essence was found in an ancient era's remnant. Wang Jinliu explained to him. The emperor of the ancient era was more powerful than the 3 demon emperors of today, but we don't know which emperor it belongs to. 100,000 years was enough to bury most of the information. In the 9 territories, there were very few martial artists who knew about what happened 10,000 years ago, so 100,000 years was more suitable. This drop of Emperor Demon God's blood essence doesn't belong to an ordinary emperor. Chu Fengmian glanced at it. Now that he had seen the Emperor Demon God's blood essence with his own eyes, he could tell that it was of perfect quality. The power contained in it was not something a demon god who had just stepped into the emperor realm could possess. The owner of the Emperor Demon God's blood essence was definitely one of the most famous figures in the ancient monster continent. Such a drop of blood essence was enough to make Chu Fengmian's strength improve further. It was even enough to change Chu Fengmian's bloodline. If Chu Fengmian got it, his strength would improve by leaps and bounds. This drop of Emperor Demon God's blood essence is a real Emperor Demon God's blood essence. It has not lost any spirit energy after tens of thousands of years. It can improve one's bloodline, improve one's aptitude, and break through to the next realm. The starting price is 10 million top-grade spirit stones. The head consecrator looked at the countless burning gazes in the auction hall and announced the starting bid. 100 million. This young lord wants the Emperor Demon God's blood essence. Young Master Lei, who was in the second heaven box, was the first to speak when the great foreign elder announced the starting price. He raised the price tenfold in his first bid, which proved that he was determined to get it. 100 million? You want to take the Emperor Demon God's blood essence? Even if you are young Master Lei, it's useless. 200 million. Another voice sounded. It was the sect master of Black Mountain sect, who had competed with Chu Fengmian for the mysterious pulse grass. Previously, when young Master Lei bought the dragon snake fruit, no one fought for it because it was not worth offending young Master Lei. However, this Emperor Demon God's blood essence was different. This Emperor Demon God's blood essence was something that even some old ancestors of the Neverwither realm and some emperor to be desired. Chapter 1057. I'd like to see who's in the first heaven box. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as his spiritual sense broke through the box's restriction and looked at the first heaven box. There was a young man sitting high on the throne in the Skyroom 1. Below the throne, 5 or 6 cultivators were kneeling before him. Without exception, all of them were old ancestors who had stepped onto the life and death steps. Even a heart-refining realm old ancestor who was about to step into the heavenly fate realm and become an emperor realm old ancestor was kneeling before the young man. In comparison, the young man's strength wasn't much. He was only at the peak of the divine force realm and hadn't even stepped into the life and death realm. What a grand display. This display is even bigger than young Master Lei. I wonder what kind of person he is. Seeing this scene, Chu Fengmian was inwardly shocked. Even a heart-refining realm old ancestor was willing to kneel before the young man. It was enough to show the young man's identity. Your Highness, it seems like Lei Ming is determined to obtain the sovereign demon god's essence blood. If this continues, it won't be good for us. Why don't you let me knock some sense into him? Let's see if he still dares to compete with your Highness. The heart-refining realm old ancestor who was kneeling below suddenly raised his head and said to the young man. There's no need. Lei Ming's father, Lei Yan, is on second brother's side after all. If he knows that I obtained the sovereign demon god's essence blood, it won't be good for me. The young man's eyes flickered as he pondered for a moment before continuing. We should have enough wealth this time. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't reveal your identity. Oh right, have you found out the identity of the two people in the third heaven box? Suddenly, the young man changed the topic and asked the black-robed man who was kneeling beside him. Not yet. The people of the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce said that they don't know the identity of this person. They only know that he seems to be related to the shopkeeper of the 7th floor, Wang Zhenliu. It seems like unless your highness personally exerts pressure, the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce won't easily reveal the identity. The black-robed man kneeling on the ground replied respectfully. The people of the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce are really tight-lipped. It seems like they want me to beg them. Go and tell the president of the ancient Snake Chamber of Commerce that I will personally talk to him after the auction. The young man's eyes flashed as he spoke. His words were like a supreme order. When everyone heard it, they could only obey, not daring to disobey. Yes. When the black-robed man heard the order, he quickly left the private room. Your Highness, are the two people in room number 3 really worthy of you looking for the ancient snake trading company? They're just two small fries. I'll go over and bring them here for your Highness to question. The old ancestor of the heart-refining realm said disapprovingly. Elder Fang, don't underestimate these two people. Since the two of them can become the distinguished guests of the ancient Snake Merchant Guild, they naturally have some background. Moreover, they don't seem to be afraid of Lei Ming, so they shouldn't be on second brother's side. The young man said coldly. Big brother, second brother and the rest are now preparing to use this opportunity to rope in other factions to prepare for the Holy Dragon Mystery Domain's assessment. Once they enter the Holy Dragon Mystery Domain, they will be appreciated by Father. I also need to rope in a few more people now. Let's first investigate the identities of these two people. Everyone, please don't act rashly. After hearing those words, the old man who was addressed as Old Fang did not say anything else. This person is actually investigating my identity? Judging from his tone, he's actually from the ancient Snake Country's imperial family? It's very likely that he's one of their princes. Chu Fengmian quietly withdrew his spiritual consciousness. However, Chu Fengmian could roughly guess the identity of this person from their conversation. In particular, they mentioned the Holy Dragon Mystery Domain, which made Chu Fengmian extremely concerned. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had heard this name. Xing Xian had mentioned it to Chu Fengmian previously. However, at that time, he had brushed it aside. Later on, young Master Lei and this young man seemed to be extremely interested in the Holy Dragon Mystery Domain. Looks like I'll have to find an opportunity to investigate the Holy Dragon Mystery Domain. It sounds like this place is related to the Dragon Tribe. It's also very useful for my bloodline. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. At this time, the battle between the young man in room number 1 and young Master Lei was getting more and more intense. Only the two of them were left in the battle for the sovereign demon god's blood essence. The price had already risen to 2.5 billion supreme grade spirit stones. Who exactly is the person in room number 1? Looks like this person intends to continue competing with young Master Lei. Let's see. A person who can take out such wealth is definitely not someone we can afford to offend. 2.5 billion supreme grade spirit stones. Even sects like the Radiant Sky sect and the Scorching Sun sect could not take out such an amount in one go. A cultivator who could take out so many supreme grade spirit stones in one go was definitely not an ordinary person. Even if he was not an expert, his background would be extremely shocking. Damn it, damn it. Where did all these people come from? Go and investigate. Find out who they are. I want to kill all of them. In room number 2, young Master Lei Ming was already in a frenzy. During the previous auction for the dragon snake fruit, Chu Fengmian had firmly suppressed him, causing him to not get the dragon snake fruit. Chu Fengmian did not bid for the sovereign demon god's blood essence, but there was another young man in room number 1. For a moment, the price was in a stalemate. 5 billion. Just as the price was in a stalemate and slowly rising, a voice suddenly rang out. The moment the voice rang out, the noise in the auction hall suddenly stopped. It was extremely quiet. 5 billion? It's the couple in room number 3 again? They're crazy. How could they bid such a high price? Gosh, how much wealth does this person have to be so extravagant? Could he be the successor of some big chamber of commerce? Originally, everyone thought that Chu Fengmian did not have much wealth left after buying the dragon snake fruit at a high price. After all, Chu Fengmian had already bought the dragon snake fruit and the mystic vein grass. Previously, he did not bid for the snake-slaying sword. In everyone's opinion, Chu Fengmian's wealth should have been depleted. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.